Chapter 2154. Goddess Luo's words stunned Su Fang. Immediately, his scalp went numb. Seeing Xuanxin's appearance again, Su Fang cursed in his heart. The golden rainbow monarch said from the depths of his body, "Kid, you still can't tell, right? You risked your life for this little girl just now, causing her to have feelings for you. She purposely said these words to test you and see what choice you will make." Su Fang glanced at Goddess Luo. Indeed, he saw a trace of craftiness in Goddess Luo's eyes. It seemed that the golden rainbow monarch's guess was most likely true. Goddess Luo really had feelings for Su Fang. After experiencing a lifetime of life and death love, how could Su Fang be heartless? Su Fang had seen all kinds of storms, but he had never had the experience of dealing with two women at the same time. What should he do now? One was Su Fang's Tao companion who had gone through life and death with him in the outside world. She was pure, holy, and noble. Moreover, she was the pride of the ancient divine Phoenix clan. The other was a mysterious, ethereal woman from beyond the heavens who had a lifetime of life and death love with Su Fang in the illusory world. How should he choose? It really made it difficult for Su Fang to choose. The more Su Fang thought about it, the more confused he became. He shouted at the golden rainbow monarch, "It's all because of you, old bastard. You actually want to take me as your disciple. I must destroy your golden rainbow monarch world and turn you into ashes." The golden rainbow monarch was trembling with fear. He hid in the golden rainbow monarch world and did not dare to make a sound. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Almost everyone's eyes were focused on Su Fang. Xuanxin and Goddess Luo were the two most outstanding women in the Yuan Tiangong Palace entrance examination this time. They could even be said to be the two most outstanding prodigies in the universe. These two peerless beauties were actually both Su Fang's Tao companions. This made everyone jealous and hateful. Why were all the good cabbages eaten by pigs? Almost everyone thought so in their hearts. At this time, Di Yuan spoke up majestically, "Su Fang, to be able to make two peerless women fall in love with you, this young master is also filled with admiration. Fine, I won't pursue the matter of you killing Fan Shu anymore. When we get out of the Pan Hung divine world, the Sanskrit will come looking for you." Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. If it was before, he would still be afraid of the Sanskrit. Now that he had entered the Yuan Tiangong, no matter how powerful the Sanskrit was, would they dare to kill people in the Yuan Tiangong? Di Yuan continued, "During the test of the sixth celestial gate, there was a sudden change. Even the masters of Yuan Tiangong couldn't save us in a short time. The Pan Hung divine world is fraught with danger and death is a possibility. Thus, I have decided to unite all the geniuses and fight against the dangers together. Su Fang, are you willing to join me? Thank you for your kindness, young master, but I still have some personal matters to attend to." Su Fang rejected Di Yuan immediately. Di Yuan's so-called alliance was merely wanting to take all of the geniuses under his command to serve him at his disposal. How could Su Fang not perceive his intentions? Q8 ZBSB. Cultivators should focus on their cultivation. How can their Tao heart be disturbed by women? Su Fang, you're on your own now, Di Yuan said majestically. Then, he turned around and left. Many geniuses followed behind him. There were also many geniuses. Some formed groups of 3 to 5, while others traveled alone. They quickly disappeared from the Pan Hung divine world. Su Fang was about to fly toward Xuanxin when Goddess Luo suddenly staggered and cried out in pain. She almost couldn't fly. Su Fang's figure flickered, and he came to Goddess Luo's side to support her. Seeing this, Xuanxin gritted his teeth and flew into the distance. Su Fang hurriedly shouted, "Xuanxin, where are you going?" Xuanxin's cold voice sounded. "Won't I be in your way if I stay here?" Su Fang said anxiously, "Xuanxin, things aren't what you think." Goddess Luo said coldly, "Could it be that what I said just now was wrong?" Su Fang was speechless. "Su Fang, I've ascended to the heavens. For 100,000 years, I've been cultivating in the divine phoenix ancient clan. I didn't dare to stop for even a moment. I did it so that I could follow your footsteps and be with you one day. Xuanxin's body trembled, and he smiled bitterly. I didn't expect this to be the result I got. What's the difference between you and Yan Xinxin? As he spoke, Xuanxin spat out a mouthful of blood. In her opinion, she had ascended to the heavens and joined the divine phoenix ancient clan, but Su Fang had found another Dao partner. This was equivalent to betrayal. Xuanxin looked cold, but he was extremely stubborn. How could he tolerate this? Su Fang was anxious. He flew over with Goddess Luo. Xuanxin, listen to me. Xuanxin kept retreating to avoid Su Fang. He smiled bitterly and said, I don't need to explain. I just want you to make a choice. Me or this woman. Goddess Luo smiled and said, Huang Xuanxin, although you knew Su Fang in the great world, Su Fang might not choose you. He and I have gone through life and death together. How can you compare to him? Unexpectedly, Goddess Luo was also someone who wanted to stir up trouble. She added fuel to the fire at this time. Xuanxin trembled. He shouted coldly, Su Fang, tell me your choice. After a moment of silence, Su Fang suddenly revealed a domineering aura. He said, All right, since I have to make a choice, I will make a decision. The two of you, Xuanxin and Goddess Luo, instantly became very nervous. Su Fang will not let either of you go. I will choose both. Su Fang's domineering voice stunned Xuanxin and Goddess Luo. Su Fang and Xian Xin had become Dao companions ever since they were in the outside world. It was impossible for Su Fang to abandon her. He had spent a lifetime with Goddess Luo in the illusory world. Abandoning Goddess Luo now would go against Su Fang's conscience. He would not do such a thing. Cultivators should live happily. They should dare to love and hate. Since it was difficult to choose, he should make a prompt decision. He might as well choose both. Su Fang, you are not greedy. I, Xuanxin, will not share a Dao partner with another woman. Since you can't give up that woman, I choose to withdraw. Xuanxin smiled bitterly. An extremely cold aura was released from his body. It turned into a pair of wings surrounded by cold aura. He flapped his wings and flew hundreds of thousands of miles away, disappearing into the depths of the Pan-Hung divine world. Su Fang was about to put Goddess Luo into his inner world to chase after Xuanxin. Only then did he realize that he was restrained by an invisible force. He could not put people or items into his inner world, nor could he release the divine artifacts in his body. Su Fang had to use his power. He took Goddess Luo with him and chased after Xuanxin. Su Fang, you choose both. How greedy! Women in the mortal world would not tolerate sharing a husband, let alone me and Xuanxin. Goddess Luo transmitted her voice to Su Fang with her nascent soul. Then she said, I have already said that we are not from the same world. Since you can't give up Xuanxin, I will withdraw. Shut up. I, Su Fang, will definitely do what I say. You and Xuanxin will not be able to escape from my hands. Su Fang shouted coldly. If you want to leave my side, it is not impossible. Give me back my half of the cake. That rotten half of the cake. Su Fang's words triggered Goddess Luo's memories. Her eyes shone with a strange light. But the next moment, Goddess Luo relaxed and spat out a mouthful of poisonous blood. Su Fang's body was stained with a few drops of blood. His robe and divine body's defense were quickly corroded. You are poisoned? Su Fangdao was shocked. He immediately used his power to sense Goddess Luo's aura. Only then did he realize that her injuries were far more serious than what he saw on the surface. There were many wounds on her body. The wounds all had the unique aura of the ancient god world. Below her left chest, there was a flying sword wound with black poisonous blood. Su Fang tore open Goddess Luo's clothes. He saw a wound below her left chest that pierced through her divine body. It almost pierced through her heart. The poison was continuously corroding her life essence. Goddess Luo's sensitive part was exposed in front of Su Fang. She looked shy. However, in the illusion world of the illusion extermination mirror, there were no secrets between the two of them. They were like a real couple. They had experienced all the normal life between husband and wife. Although it was an illusion, it was no different from reality. Now that Su Fang saw her body, it was not a big deal. Goddess Luo quickly returned to normal. Damn you, Fan Shu. Even if you die 100 times, it will not be enough. Su Fang gritted his teeth. He reached out and pressed on Goddess Luo's wound. Ah! Goddess Luo screamed in shock. Her face turned red. Su Fang said, "Don't move. I will remove the poison for you." Remove the poison? Goddess Luo did not believe that Su Fang could really remove the poison. She thought that Su Fang wanted to take advantage of the situation. She was very nervous. Su Fang ordered Gue Gue to use the detoxification ability in his body. Using Su Fang's body, the poison in Goddess Luo's wound was sucked out bit by bit. Soon, all the poison was sucked out. Goddess Luo finally understood that she had misunderstood Su Fang. Although the poison in Goddess Luo's body was removed, her injuries were not light. The main reason was that her opponent was too strong. Fan Shu and the others were also very ruthless. Heal your wounds first. Then we will go and find Xuanqin. Su Fang immediately made a decision. He fed Goddess Luo a large number of elixirs. Then, he brought Goddess Luo and flew across the sky. He planned to find a secluded place to help Goddess Luo recover. The Panhing godly world was now filled with crazy big goblins, devils, and resurrected strong cultivators. Su Fang met many along the way. Luckily, they were not very strong. Su Fang killed them easily. It's a godly nation built by a godly person? After flying in the sky for more than 10 days, a godly nation appeared in Su Fang's sight. After flying above the godly nation and sensing it, Su Fang raised his eyebrows. He was surprised. This godly nation was protected by an extremely strong ward. The godly nation was not big. It only had a dozen cities. There were also imperial cities and palaces. The human cultivators in the godly nation were not very strong. Most of them were mortals. The highest cultivation level was only the divine emperor realm. Su Fang and Goddess Luo's appearance immediately attracted the attention of the godly people in the godly nation. They all cheered loudly. Some even knelt on the ground to worship them. Chapter 2155. After entering the kingdom of God's emperor personally welcomed them. He was very respectful to Su Fang and Goddess Luo. It felt like a mortal meeting a god. The kingdom of God's emperor was also a god, and his cultivation level was quite high. He had reached the peak of the 9th heaven of the divine emperor realm. However, this level of cultivation was nothing to Su Fang. Regardless of whether the kingdom of God's emperor was sincere or not, Su Fang brought Goddess Luo to a quiet palace in the depths of the imperial city and created an array to seal the entire palace. They entered a large hall in the palace. Su Fang saw that although the poison in Goddess Luo's body had been cleansed, her injuries were still shocking. She had 100,000 supreme-grade pills on her, but no matter how many pills she had, it was difficult for her to recover in a short period of time. Goddess Luo stared at Su Fang. "Why? Do you feel a little heartache?" "Yes." Su Fang was straightforward, which surprised Goddess Luo. After a moment of silence, Goddess Luo said, "From the day I became a cultivator, I was often injured. This injury is nothing." Su Fang looked at Goddess Luo in surprise. "Why is that?" Goddess Luo's expression dimmed. "This is my fate. There's no need to talk about it." Su Fang knew that Goddess Luo had too many secrets, so he didn't continue asking. After letting Goddess Luo sit down and activate her divine essence, Su Fang activated the power of the 9 yang and injected it into her body. After receiving Su Fang's yang energy, Goddess Luo's vitality and blood were recovering bit by bit. Gradually, she was free from the threat of death. Only then did Su Fong feel relieved. Suddenly, a shocking special power exploded from Goddess Luo's body and entered Su Fong's body. It was somewhat similar to the yin and yang energy in Su Fong's world, but it was different. It felt like a power that didn't belong to this world. This power, just as he was shocked, this power was absorbed by Su Fong and entered the yin-yang Dao wheel formed by the 67 yang meridians. Suddenly, there was an unexpected explosion. The entire yin-yang Dao wheel was shaking crazily. Su Fong was astonished as he peeled off a strand of his consciousness and sent it into the depths of his body. He discovered that the 68th yang meridian that he was trying to break through was actually successfully condensing. I never expected that Goddess Luo's unique power would allow me to successfully produce a yang meridian. Su Fong was pleasantly surprised. He activated the 9 yang 9 transformations with all his might and began to attack the yang vein that was about to be born. Goddess Luo felt the changes in Su Fong's body and looked at Su Fong in surprise. "Are you about to break through? It's about time. Swallow some pills to recover first. I'll leave for a while." Su Fong did not avoid Goddess Luo and went to a corner of the palace. Just as he sat down cross-legged, a wave of yang qi flames swept through the 67 yang meridians and rushed into the meridian that was being attacked. The 68th meridian suddenly shook violently, as if it wanted to rush out of the body. Then, the entire meridian instantly turned into a jade-like substance, and the yang energy from the other yang meridians madly surged into the meridian. The 68th yang meridian was successfully born. The newly born yang meridian rapidly approached the yin-yang Dao wheel and fused with one end of the 67th yang meridian, becoming a part of the yin-yang Dao wheel's periphery. As such, the yin-yang Dao wheel was formed from 68 yang meridians. Su Fong began to activate the 9 yang 9 transformations to cultivate the newly born 68th yang meridian, making the yang meridian even more like a jade-like meridian. Only 10 years later did the 68th yang meridian calm down. Su Fong began to attack the 69th yang meridian. What kind of power is in Goddess Luo's body that allowed me to successfully condense a yang meridian? Su Fong guessed that Goddess Luo's power was a special power that came from beyond the heavens. It was very special that allowed Su Fong to produce a yang meridian. He looked at Goddess Luo. He saw that she had already recovered by half. The wounds on her body had already healed, as if she had never been injured. She was still far from recovering to her peak state. Goddess Luo was seriously injured this time. It was already shocking that she could recover to such an extent in just 10 years. This was naturally thanks to Su Fong's yang qi. Su Fong walked over and was about to use his yang qi to continue helping Goddess Luo recover. Goddess Luo suddenly said, "My yang spirit is also seriously injured. Help me." Su Fong did not hesitate to release his yang spirit and enter Goddess Luo's divine aperture. Goddess Luo's divine aperture's defense did not block Su Fong's yang spirit. He came to the divine aperture. Goddess Luo's yang spirit was a little dispirited, but it did not look like she was seriously injured. Su Fong could not help but be stunned. However, when he saw Goddess Luo's naked and beautiful yang spirit, the yang qi in Su Fong's body surged, and he almost had a nosebleed. Goddess Luo's yang spirit moved closer to Su Fong and said faintly, "Do you still remember what happened after my face was destroyed in the fire?" Scenes from the fantasy world appeared in Su Fong's mind. A fire destroyed Goddess Luo's peerless face and made her heart turn to ashes. Su Fong had risked his life to exchange for a mirror that could change one's appearance for Goddess Luo. He wanted to win her heart and resolve the knot in her heart. Su Fong sighed and said, "You said that it was just an illusion. You and I are not from the same world. Although it was an illusion, it came from the heart, just like how you risked your life to save me this time." Goddess Luo stared into Su Fong's eyes and then hugged Su Fong tightly. In an instant, Su Fong felt as if he was floating in the clouds. Even his soul was floating. I still want to be husband and wife with you. Even if the world is destroyed, you don't have to care about him. Goddess Luo bit Su Fang's ear and whispered. At this moment, their yang spirits were entwined and merged together, comforting each other. Their bodies also merged together, entangling with each other. All of this seemed very unfamiliar, but it was so familiar, as if they had experienced it thousands of times before. After an unknown period of time, everything was calm. Su Fang, the fantasy world has become reality. I'm satisfied with this. Once? How can once be enough? No. Ah, Su Fang, how can you be so barbaric? You weren't like this in the fantasy world. Humph, it's too late for you to know my true colors now. Ah. The palace returned to its calm state. After a long time, Goddess Luo said, "Go and find her. I know you still miss her." There was a moment of silence. Su Fang said domineeringly, "You stay here and recover. I'll come back when I find Xuanxin. Neither of you will be able to escape from my grasp." Goddess Luo snorted. "You greedy man. Why don't you get all the peerless women by your side? That won't be necessary. With you and Xuanxin, I'm satisfied." Su Fang laughed domineeringly. Su Fang left the palace, and the theocracy emperor brought many cultivators to visit him. Su Fang asked about the Panheng divine realm in detail, asked for a map, and then left the theocracy with confusion. What surprised Su Fang was that the gods of the Panheng divine realm didn't know the origin or history of the Panheng divine realm. It seemed to have appeared out of thin air. What shocked Su Fang the most was that when he used the Tianji life-shrinking art to sense the fates of these gods, the Dao runes of fate had no reaction. Everyone's fates were blank. In fact, Su Fang had already noticed the strangeness of the Panheng divine realm when he suppressed Fan Shu and the other ancient god realm geniuses. He used the heaven underworld to devour Fan Shu and a dozen ancient god realm geniuses, but after that, he realized that the blood qi of these geniuses didn't bring any changes to his life force. Interesting. The test of the sixth gate of heaven isn't that simple. Su Fang vaguely guessed something. From the map given by the theocracy emperor, Su Fang knew that the Panheng divine realm was very vast. Even divine emperors couldn't find the end of the Panheng divine realm. In the Panheng divine realm, there were many powerful big goblin, demon race, and also powerful hidden cultivators. It was said that the strongest hidden cultivator was called Honorable Qiong Hua. Her cultivation had reached the peak of the ninth heaven of ultimate god. After the upheaval, many ancient demon gods and big goblin were resurrected in the Panheng divine realm. Some of them were even at the peak of the ultimate god realm. Su Fang wasn't afraid of the top experts in the Panheng divine realm. However, there were countless big goblin, demon race, and resurrected experts in the Panheng divine realm. It was a dangerous place. According to the theocracy emperor, there were many extremely powerful resurrected experts who were still in hibernation. Once they woke up, there wouldn't be any life left in the Panheng divine realm. Let's find Xuanxin first. Su Fang began to worry about Xuanxin's safety. He used the firecloud wings and flew in the direction where Xuanxin left. Su Fang's unbridled flight attracted the attention of many greater demons and devils. There were also resurrected experts who attacked him fiercely. Even with Su Fang's strength, he didn't dare to fight too long. Once he was entangled, he might not even be able to survive. Fortunately, Su Fang had many pills with him, and they were all supreme-grade pills. He wouldn't be unable to replenish his divine yuan just because he didn't have enough pills. In addition, Su Fang had the yin-yang transformation. Even in the Panheng divine realm, where cultivation was impossible, he could devour everything in the world and turn it into chaos qi for cultivation and recovery. However, using the yin-yang transformation would cause too much of a commotion. It might alert the powerful existences in the Panheng divine realm, so Su Fang wouldn't use it easily. As he flew, Su Fang used his great perfection stage ability and the life-shrinking technique to project his senses to search for Xuanxin's aura. During this time, Su Fang saw many geniuses who had entered the Pan-Hung divine realm. He also saw some of them being attacked by the Big Goblin, demon race, and resurrected experts. Among these geniuses, only Sun Qi had a good relationship with Su Fang. Su Fang didn't care about the lives of the others, so he naturally wouldn't save them. About 20 years later, the life-shrinking technique's Tao of Destiny suddenly flashed in the depths of his mind. Xuanxin, I've finally found you. It was Xuanxin's Tao of Destiny that caused the Tao of Destiny to stir. Su Fang flew forward. 3 days later, a towering mountain appeared in his sight. Chapter 2156. Su Fang performed his complete realm ability and divine life shrinking technique again to sense Xuanxin's aura. What he sensed earlier was not wrong. Xuanxin was indeed in one of the cave dwellings on the mountain. Judging from Xuanxin's aura, there was nothing unusual about it. Su Fang immediately let out a sigh of relief and flew towards the mountain. Qianghua Sacred Mountain is not a place for you to trespass. Cram! A hollow roar came from the towering mountain. All of a sudden, Su Fang saw a giant palm condensed from rocks, sweeping up an incomparably majestic earth element nature power, grabbing at him in a domineering manner. The giant palm was like a mountain. Its strength was comparable to a peak ninth heaven ultimate god expert's attack. Get lost! Su Fang quickly entered his natal mode, and borrowed the power of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda to infuse his complete realm body with the power of the 100,000 experts and Big Goblin. Then, he responded with a similarly domineering punch. Boom! The entire Qianghua Mountain and the surrounding land and mountains shook violently. The giant palm was shattered. Su Fang's flaming cloud wings flapped and turned into a cloud of fire and landed on Qianghua Mountain. The expert who attacked Su Fang was obviously shocked by Su Fang's punch. He did not make any noise and allowed Su Fang to enter Qianghua Mountain. The huge commotion caused by the collision caused a commotion on Qianghua Mountain. Countless gods flew out from their caves and dojos. It's just a small earthquake. What's there to panic about? Everyone, go back! An old and hollow primordial spirit's voice spread across the entire Qianghua Mountain. The alarmed gods quickly went back and Qianghua Mountain returned to its peaceful state. The one who attacked just now should be Qianghua the Honorable. I didn't expect her to be a tactful person. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. If Qianghua the Honorable did not know what was good for her, Su Fang would not mind teaching her a lesson. They came to a cliff on the mountainside. On the cliff, there was a flat field with an area of about 300 meters. Against the mountain wall, there was an exquisite pavilion. Su Fang sensed Xuanxin's aura. It was in the pavilion. More than a dozen cultivators were gathered in front of the pavilion. The strongest among them was a lower ultimate god, while the weaker ones were high divine emperors. All of them were handsome and elegant. They should be the elite disciples of Qianghua Mountain. Su Fang was about to step forward. A handsome young man walked to the entrance of the pavilion and shouted, "Senior Sister Xian, ever since you came to Qianghua Mountain and the first time I saw you, I have been missing you day and night. All I wanted was to see you again. Why are you so heartless?" Su Fang was both shocked and stunned. It turned out that these young talents of Qianghua Mountain were all Xuanxin's pursuers. "How dare you pursue my Tao companion?" A nameless fury surged from the bottom of Su Fang's heart and turned into a burning momentum. After a long time, there was no movement from the pavilion. The young man left gloomily. Another young man in a silver robe walked to the front of the pavilion. This person's cultivation was the strongest among the disciples of Qianghua Mountain. He was a third sky ultimate god and was very extraordinary. The silver-robed young man took out a divine weapon in the shape of a flower. This divine weapon was exquisite. There were countless petals that emitted a dazzling brilliance. However, in Su Fang's eyes, this divine weapon was just a decoration. Other than looking good, there was no other use for it. He did not know what this handsome young man was going to do with it. Suddenly the silver-robed young man knelt on one knee and shouted, "I am Zhuangqi. It has been 9,999 days since I met Senior Sister Xian. Every day I would use my heart to refine a petal. After 9,999 days, I finally refined this flower of heart. My sincerity can be seen by the sun and moon. Please accept my sincerity, Senior Sister Xian." Su Fang was stunned. He had goosebumps all over his body. He did not expect this small Cheonghua mountain to have such an extraordinary person. Xuanxin's charm could be seen from this. Xuanxin's voice came from the pavilion. "Senior brothers, Xuanxin already has a cultivation partner. He will only be staying at Cheonghua Mountain for a short period of time. He will definitely not have any feelings for you. Everyone, please go back." Su Fang was pleased with himself after hearing Xuanxin's words. Who is Senior Sister Xian's cultivation partner? I want to challenge him. A battle of life and death. It won't end until one of us dies. Senior Sister Xian is such a peerless woman. Other than me, Zhuangqi, who else is qualified to be her cultivation partner? The disciples of Cheonghua Mountain were filled with righteous indignation. "I am Xuanxin's cultivation partner," Su Fang said and walked to the pavilion from the back. The disciples of Cheonghua Mountain realized Su Fang's existence and were instantly enraged. However, at the next moment, Su Fang released the terrifying aura of a fifth firmament ultimate god expert. The disciples of Cheonghua Mountain immediately trembled. How would they dare to challenge Su Fang? Xuanxin's voice suddenly came from the pavilion. "Senior brother Zhuangqi, I suddenly changed my mind. I want to have a heart-to-heart talk with you. I wonder if you have time to come to the pavilion?" Zhuangqi was pleasantly surprised. He glanced at Su Fang proudly, then walked toward the pavilion under the envious gazes of the other disciples. "How dare you have evil thoughts about my woman?" Su Fang was enraged. He used the fire cloud steps and blocked the entrance of the pavilion before Zhuangqi could. Zhuangqi shouted coldly, "Senior Sister Xian invited me for a heart-to-heart talk. How dare you stop her? Do you know who I am? I am. Get lost." A divine flame aura burst out from Su Fang's body. The terrifying flame swept across and burned Zhuangqi's skin and flesh, causing him to scream in pain. Su Fang could even suppress experts who had surpassed the ultimate god realm. Zhuangqi was only a lower ultimate god. How could he be Su Fang's opponent? If Su Fang didn't show mercy, he would have been burned to ashes by Su Fang's divine flame aura. Xuanxin appeared at the entrance of the pavilion and shouted at Su Fang, "Su Fang, what are you doing?" Su Fang ignored Xuanxin and shouted coldly at the disciples of Cheonghua Mountain, "Xuanxin is my woman. How dare you covet her?" A young man shouted angrily, "Who are you? How dare you come to Cheonghua Mountain to commit murder? It's our right to pursue Senior Sister Xian. The ancestor didn't stop us. How dare you injure Senior Brother Zhuangqi? How overbearing!" Su Fang's figure flashed. Boom! A punch landed on the young man's face. His bones shattered and blood splattered everywhere. The young man's handsome face was instantly smashed into a pulp. Xuanxin said angrily, "Su Fang, you slap, 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 slap." More than a dozen disciples of Cheonghua Mountain were slapped in the face. Half of their faces were smashed and blood spurted out from their mouth. "Who dares to pursue my Taoist companion? I, Su Fang, will beat every one of you until you don't dare to pursue her. Get lost." Su Fang displayed the aura of an overlord, shaking the dozen or so youths. "Just you wait. How dare you be so arrogant on Cheonghua Mountain? The ancestor won't let you go." Zhuangqi and the others were shocked and angry. They didn't dare to stay in front of the pavilion. However, they didn't forget to leave a few harsh words before leaving. Su Fang, you already have a woman. Why are you still entangled with me? Xuanxin returned to his ice-cold appearance. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. You'll be entangled with me for the rest of your life. If there's a reincarnation, you'll be my woman forever. Su Fang, you're not domineering at all. Xuanxin turned around and entered the pavilion. Su Fang followed closely behind. Xuanxin, listen to me first. It's not too late to be angry. Xuanxin sat cross-legged in the pavilion. He closed his eyes and ignored Su Fang. He was like an everlasting iceberg. Su Fang slowly told Goddess Luo about what had happened between him and Goddess Luo in the disillusionment execution mirror. Half a piece of cake. How touching! Xuanxin finally opened his mouth. His ice-like eyes began to melt and his voice was no longer as cold. There was a hint of shock and emotion in his voice. There was also a hint of jealousy. Su Fang stared at Xuanxin and said slowly, Xuanxin, you should know that if it were you, I would also leave half a piece of cake without hesitation. Xuanxin was silent. He knew that if Su Fang said it, he would definitely do it. Su Fang walked forward and sat cross-legged behind Xuanxin. He hugged Xuanxin from behind. A pure yang aura that surpassed any man's made Xuanxin confused. Even an iceberg was melted by Su Fang at this moment. Su Fang, what are you doing? When Su Fang tried to untie Xuanxin's Taoist robe, Xuanxin was instantly alerted and instinctively resisted. I want to repay what I owed you for 100,000 years. Su Fang was extremely domineering. He was like a volcano, attacking Xuanxin aggressively and domineeringly. He quickly removed the iceberg's defenses and attacked the deepest part of the iceberg. Just like that, Su Fang conquered the iceberg domineeringly. Su Fang, you bastard! I haven't forgiven you. How can you? Someone is coming. As he was completely conquered, the last trace of coldness in Xuanxin's heart also melted. From resistance to cooperation, it finally turned into crazily demanding. He only wanted to become one with Su Fang, regardless of the flood outside. In the pavilion, rapid breaths constantly reverberated. Su Fang's extreme yang aura and Xuanxin's ice phoenix aura intertwined in the pavilion, just as Su Fang and Xuanxin were making love. At the peak of Qianghua Mountain, outside a palace shrouded in clouds, Zhuo Yingqi and a dozen Qianghua Mountain disciples knelt on the ground. That foreign cultivator is really hateful. Not only did he forcefully take senior martial sister Xian, he also severely injured this disciple. He's so arrogant and looks down on Qianghua Mountain. Master, please suppress this person. Zhuo Yingqi repeatedly kowtowed with a face full of grief and indignation. A majestic voice came from the palace. How dare you act so recklessly on Qianghua Mountain? You don't even put me in your eyes. Let's see how arrogant you can be this time with the help of the ancestor. Zhuo Yingqi and the other Qianghua Mountain disciples all held their heads high. Who knew, after waiting for a long time, Qianghua Mountain still didn't appear. Zhuo Yingqi shouted loudly, Ancestor, please hurry up. If you're late, senior martial sister Xian might be killed by that person. Coming. Chapter 2157. Although Qianghua agreed, she still didn't show up. Zhuo Yingqi was very anxious. After waiting for half an hour, he couldn't help but kneel down again. Ancestor, senior sister Xian is in danger. If we delay any longer, I'm afraid it will lead to an irreversible tragedy. Zhuo Yingqi and the other disciples of Qianghua Mountain didn't know that in such a short time, Xuanxin had already been killed by Su Fang. I originally didn't want to lower myself to the same level as a junior. Since this person is so arrogant, I'll go and suppress him now. An old man with messy hair shuttled out of the formation in the palace. It was Qianghua the Venerable, who had been summoned a long time ago. Ancestor has personally come out. That brat will definitely be captured. Zhuo Yingqi and the other disciples of Qianghua Mountain were all energized. They all held their heads high and followed behind Qianghua Mountain, aggressively heading towards the cliff where Xuanxin lived. The other higher-ups and disciples of Qianghua Mountain rushed over after hearing the news. By the time they reached the cliff, thousands of people had gathered. They came to the front of the pavilion. Zhuo Yingqi shouted domineeringly, "Senior Sister Xian, don't be afraid. Ancestor has personally come. Let's see how that brat dares to be arrogant." The other disciples of Qianghua Mountain also shouted angrily. After a while, there was no response from the pavilion. Zhuo Yingqi's expression changed. "Not good. Senior Sister Xian has probably been killed by that brat. Go and rescue her." "Senior brothers, I'm fine. Please go back." Xuanxin's voice came intermittently. His voice was hurried and gave people an indescribable feeling. Everyone looked at each other and their expressions became strange. "Senior sister, don't panic. I'll save you." Zhuo Yingqi relied on Qianghua Mountain's support and rushed towards the pavilion. "Get lost!" Su Fang's furious voice came. Then, a majestic aura swept out and sent Zhuo Yingqi flying. Qianghua Mountain's deep eyes revealed a look of fear and even fear. Zhuo Yingqi was shocked and angry. "Ancestor, please do it yourself. Qianghua Mountain has always treated people with respect. Although this brat is arrogant, I can't be rude." Venerable Qianghua tidied up her Taoist robe and walked to the front of the pavilion. "I'm Qianghua the Venerable. Why haven't you come out yet?" Qianghua the Venerable said majestically. Many disciples of Qianghua Mountain praised the Grand Ancestor's magnanimity. Naturally, there were also people who secretly blamed the old ancestor for not being domineering enough. They said that he should have directly broken the barrier around the pavilion and then suppressed the arrogant foreign cultivator. Only then would he be able to vent their hatred and be domineering enough. "Wait outside." Su Fang snorted coldly. Qianghua Venerable said in a domineering manner, "Fine. You're a guest from afar. It's fine for me to wait here for a while." The higher-ups and disciples of Qianghua Mountain finally felt that something was amiss. Since when did their patriarch become so courteous? Outside the pavilion, Xuanxin sat on Su Fang's body. Their bodies were still fused together. It was a very romantic scene. Xuanxin struggled to get up, but Su Fang held him tightly. Not only was he unable to do as he wished, but he was even deeper into her body. Xuanxin could only clench his teeth tightly. He was afraid that he would lose his voice. His face was full of shyness, and he wished he could find a hole to hide in. About 2 hours later, everything became peaceful again. Everything returned to normal. Xian Xian bit Su Fang fiercely and finally broke free from his evil hands. She hurriedly put on her Taoist robe, but the redness on her face could not be concealed. Xuanxin hurriedly went upstairs and didn't show his face again. Su Fang smiled proudly. He grabbed his Taoist robe and put it on. Then, he rolled up a gust of wind and blew away the aura in the pavilion. Only then did he say majestically, "Come in." Outside the pavilion, Qianghua the Venerable strode into the pavilion with her head held high. "Grand Ancestor is mighty. Grand Ancestor, you'll be defeated immediately." Behind her, the disciples of Qianghua Mountain cheered loudly like a tsunami. Zhuo Yingqi and the other disciples, as well as the higher-ups, felt that something was wrong. Why was the Grand Ancestor acting a bit strange today? As soon as Qianghua the Venerable walked into the pavilion, Su Fang smiled faintly. "Are you going to suppress me?" Qianghua the Venerable cast a formation and sealed the pavilion. Then, she seemed to have changed into a different person. Her face was full of smiles, and her waist suddenly bent down. "Young master, you must be joking. You're a guest from afar. How could I have any thoughts of harming you?" Xuanxin heard Qianghua the Venerable's words from upstairs and was stunned. She knew the relationship between Su Fang and Goddess Luo. In grief, she wandered aimlessly in the Pan-Hung divine realm and finally came to Cheonghua Mountain. Cheonghua the Venerable saw that Xuanxin's strength was not bad, so she left her at Cheonghua Mountain. Xuanxin didn't know that Cheonghua the Venerable had a short confrontation with Su Fang before Su Fang came to Cheonghua Mountain. Although this person's strength was not bad, he was born as timid as a mouse. He was intimidated by Su Fang's strength, so how could he have the thought of suppressing Su Fang? His only thought at the moment was to send Su Fang away as soon as possible so that he wouldn't get into trouble. However, he was very proud and didn't want to lose face in front of his subordinates, so he acted like a different person. Q8ZBSB. Su Fang nodded and said, "I came to Cheonghua Mountain to pick up my partner. There's nothing else. You can leave now." "Yes." Cheonghua the Venerable cupped her fists at Su Fang, then left the pavilion and became the ancestral patriarch of Cheonghua Mountain again. The elders and disciples of Cheonghua Mountain thought that there would be a battle, but they didn't expect Cheonghua the Venerable to come out so soon after going in. Cheonghua the Venerable said, "I don't want to fight with a junior, so I talked to him with reason and moved him with emotion. He's been persuaded by me and will leave Cheonghua Mountain soon." As soon as she finished speaking, Su Fang and Xuanxin walked out side by side and flew away, quickly disappearing from everyone's sight. Our ancestral patriarch is awesome. Our ancestral patriarch didn't even need to do anything. The enemy ran away. The disciples cheered again. As they shouted, some disciples suddenly realized that their ancestral patriarch had driven away the enemy, but why did she drive away senior sister Xuanxin as well? By the time they reacted, Cheonghua the Venerable had already disappeared. About 50 years later, Su Fang appeared in the sky above the Divine Kingdom with Xuanxin, followed by a dozen geniuses who participated in the Yuan Tiangong Palace entrance examination, including Sun Qi. Almost everyone, including Su Fang, was injured. 3 of them were seriously injured and were on the verge of death. The Yuan Tiangong Divine World was getting more and more dangerous. On their way back, Su Fang and Xuanxin encountered countless resurrected experts, including some who were stronger than the ultimate god realm. If it were Su Fang and Xuanxin, it wouldn't be difficult for them to escape. However, they encountered Sun Qi and a dozen other geniuses along the way. Su Fang had no choice but to save them. They were constantly attacked by the resurrected experts along the way, which was why they were in such a difficult situation. Where are the cities from before? Su Fang saw that only the divine capital was left among the dozens of cities in the divine kingdom. The rest had turned into ruins. The resurrected experts were roaming around the ruins like locusts. Even the divine capital was only left with the imperial city, which was surrounded by countless resurrected experts. Oh no, Goddess Luo is in danger. Su Fang's divine light changed instantly. He immediately used his great perfection sensing ability and the divine life shrinking technique to sense Goddess Luo's aura. He saw Goddess Luo outside the imperial city, fighting with a resurrected demon god who was only left with a skeleton. The resurrected demon god's strength had just surpassed the ultimate god realm. Goddess Luo could have easily killed it. However, Goddess Luo had been seriously injured by Fan Shu and the other geniuses from the ancient god realm. She had not recovered to her peak condition and was in a stalemate with the resurrected demon god. The Emperor of the Divine Kingdom led the cultivators and soldiers of the Divine Kingdom to fight with the resurrected experts. People were constantly being devoured by the resurrected expert. Some were even being torn to pieces. However, no one retreated because they had nowhere to run. Xuanxin, take the injured geniuses and enter the imperial city first. I will go with the others to help them. Su Fang made a prompt decision. You are also injured. Leave the resurrected expert who has surpassed the ultimate god realm to me. Xuanxin replied domineeringly. Without waiting for Su Fang's reply, a lifelike ice phoenix shadow appeared on his body. With a monstrous icy aura, he charged downward. His target was the resurrected expert who was fighting with Goddess Luo. Xuanxin can't be, Su Fang's heart was in his mouth. Sun Qi, protect the injured. The rest follow me. Su Fang instructed Sun Qi. Then, he led the 9 uninjured geniuses and charged toward the imperial city. However, just as he took a step forward, a thick aura of death swept across the void. Then, a resurrected divine dragon broke through the void and charged toward Su Fang. This divine dragon was even more powerful than the resurrected demon god who was fighting with Goddess Luo. Su Fang and the other 9 geniuses had to focus all their energy on dealing with it. They couldn't care less about Goddess Luo and Xuanxin below. Xuanxin had the true form of the Ice Phoenix. This was a physical divine power. Even if he couldn't communicate with nature, he could still unleash a powerful ice elemental divine power. The resurrected demon god was shackled by the ice elemental divine power. Not only did it find it difficult to move, but its monstrous aura of death and demonic qi were also frozen. Its strength was greatly reduced. Thank you. Goddess Luo thanked him loudly. She used the power of the world in her body to shatter the resurrected demon god into a pile of ice. The only intact part was its head, which rolled to the side. Xuanxin said coldly, I'm not helping you. If you die, Su Fang will be sad. Suddenly, the resurrected demon god's head shot out from the ground. It opened its mouth and spat out a gust of death and demonic qi at Xuanxin. Xuanxin's divine light changed instantly. By the time he put up a defense, it was already too late. Qi. The power of the world shot out from Goddess Luo's eyes. It instantly formed a chain and whipped the resurrected demon god's head. Poof! The resurrected demon god's head was shattered. The fatal attack on Xuanxin also disappeared. Goddess Luo smiled faintly. You don't have to thank me. If you die, Su Fang will also be sad. That's why I saved you. Xuanxin stared at Goddess Luo. Su Fang has good taste. You are qualified to be his Dao partner. Chapter 2158. In the Sky. Su Fang joined forces with the other 9 geniuses and quickly killed the resurrected divine dragon. 2 resurrected experts that surpassed the ultimate god realm were killed. The morale of the divine nation cultivators was greatly boosted as they roared and charged toward the resurrected experts. Su Fang, Xuanxin, Goddess Luo, and the other geniuses were all powerful. Su Fang and the others were no longer a match for the resurrected experts. They were like tigers in a flock of sheep. After about 10 days, more than half of the resurrected powerhouses were finally killed, and the rest fled in disorder. The calamity was finally resolved by Su Fang and his crew. The once prosperous divine capital was now in ruins except for the imperial city. Tens of millions of cultivators had died inside and outside the imperial city. No one knew how many of them had been devoured by the resurrected experts. There were still more than 100 million people alive in the imperial city. However, almost everyone below the emperor was injured, and there were people dying from their injuries. Screams and groans echoed inside and outside the imperial city. The despair and fear of the end of the world shrouded everyone's heart. Su Fang fell silent when he saw this tragic scene. After a long time, Su Fang flew to the sky above the imperial city and suddenly formed a seal. Great Yen Seal. A heavenly Tao divine aura that was derived from all things in the world suddenly exploded and shrouded the surroundings. Goddess Luo asked in surprise, Su Fang, are you going to save them? Sun Qi advised, these cultivators and mortals are just a bunch of ants. What's the value of saving them? Xuanxin and the other geniuses were also confused. In the eyes of these geniuses, the people of the divine world of Panheng were just a bunch of ants. For the sake of these ants, Su Fang did not hesitate to use his supreme divine ability to save them. It was truly puzzling. In our eyes, these cultivators and mortals are just ants. It doesn't matter whether they live or die. The world is like a well, and we are just frogs at the bottom of the well. In the eyes of those outside the well, we are just like these cultivators and mortals. We are all ants. Since we are all ants, what right do we have to look down on them? I'm just using up some energy to save them. But for them, it's a chance to live. Su Fang's voice was loud. In the Golden Rainbow King's world, the conversation with the Golden Rainbow King made Su Fang understand that the deities of the myriad worlds were just a group of frogs at the bottom of a well. From then on, Su Fang's Tao heart changed completely. Everyone had the right to live. At this moment, giving these cultivators and deities a chance to live was also giving hope to himself. Su Fang's words left all of the geniuses shocked. As they looked at the divine kingdom cultivators and mortals below, their expressions gradually changed. Goddess Luo stared at Su Fang as a strange light flashed in her eyes. Xian Xian's heart was filled with pride. This is my Tao partner. Who can compare to her in all the worlds? Su Fang's voice faded, and the power of the great Yen seal burst out. The natural spirit energy of the world, under the influence of the grand Yen godly aura, underwent a reversal and turned into a mysterious power of creation. Sizzle under Su Fang's power, the cultivators and mortals in the imperial city absorbed the power of creation and turned it into an astonishing life force. At the same time, it caused the life force in their bodies to roar. The life force of these people increased by leaps and bounds, and they quickly recovered to their peak state. Some people's life force even increased. More than a dozen geniuses were shocked by Su Fang's supreme divine power again. In the Pan-Hung divine world, it was impossible to communicate with the heaven and earth to cast skills. However, Su Fang was able to use his own strength to transform the heaven and earth's spiritual qi into the power of creation, allowing so many gods and mortals to recover. Almost 100 million cultivators and mortals in the imperial city knelt down and cheered loudly, showing their gratitude and excitement without holding back. Su Fang's face turned pale after using the Great Yen Seal, but it was still bearable. Using the Great Yen Seal consumed much less energy than using the yin-yang change. Although he couldn't use it casually, it wasn't the same as using the yin-yang change. Every time he used it, he would use up almost all of his yin-yang divine power. Swish. Swish. Q8ZBSB. Wisps of invisible power of faith were released from the cultivators and mortals in the imperial city. They gathered together and formed a mighty current that kept gathering towards Su Fang. In a flash, Su Fang felt a lot closer to the Pan-Hung divine world and could sense the natural spirit qi of heaven and earth more clearly. Su Fang estimated that he should be able to use some divine powers in the Pan-Hung divine world. In the great world, absorbing the power of faith can gain the approval of the deity world. In the great worlds, absorbing the power of faith can gain the approval of the heavenly Tao and improve one's ability to communicate with heaven and earth and control nature. This is my reward for saving the cultivators and mortals of the divine kingdom and stabilizing the divine world. Su Fang understood. Sun Qi said, Su Fang, we can't stay here for long. We should leave as soon as possible and find a place to hide. We can wait for the Yuan Tiangong to rescue us. Xian Xian said, the calamity of the Pan-Hung divine world is getting worse and worse. Where can they hide? On the way from Cheonghua Mountain to the divine nations, Xuanxin and the others felt how terrifying the resurrected overlords were. They were almost everywhere. What was more terrifying was that these resurrected overlords seemed to have a powerful divine power that could sense life. Sun Qi and the other geniuses were hidden deep underground, but they were still found by the resurrected overlords. There was nowhere to hide in the vast Pan-Hung divine world. The dozen or so geniuses didn't know what to do, and they all looked at Su Fang. One of the geniuses hesitated and took out a talisman from his storage ring. Diyuan sent someone to find me and gave me this talisman. It can be used to contact many other geniuses. Diyuan is currently occupying a large divine nation in the Pan-Hung divine world. He wants to control the forces of the divine nation and guard it to the death. He also ordered all the geniuses to gather with him through the talisman. Why don't we join Diyuan? This way, we may have a chance to survive. The other geniuses were tempted by his words. Diyuan was a peerless genius of the imperial people. Not only was his status and strength unparalleled, but he also had the ability to rally people. If they met up with Diyuan and gathered the strength of all the geniuses, in addition to the divine nation that he controlled, their chances of survival would definitely increase greatly. Diyuan has occupied a divine nation and used the cultivators of the Pan-Hung divine world as cannon fodder. If we join him, we will end up like these native cultivators. In his eyes, everything in the world is an ant, let alone us. Su Fang had seen through Diyuan's thoughts and smiled coldly. Looking at the divine nation below, Su Fang said slowly, "No matter where we go, there will be resurrected experts swarming over. Why don't we stay here?" Xuanxin and Goddess Luo naturally followed Su Fang. Sun Qi was no exception. The other geniuses looked hesitant. Sun Qi shouted domineeringly. Su Fang didn't hesitate to exhaust his strength to save a group of people who have nothing to do with him. How can you suffer if you follow him? If you want to be cannon fodder under Diyuan, get lost immediately. The dozen or so geniuses no longer hesitated as if they had been shouted at. The genius with the talisman immediately took out the talisman and sent a message to the other geniuses, summoning them. The calamity in the Pan-Hung divine world could be said to have exploded and swept through every corner of the divine world. Geniuses kept dying, and the other geniuses were in a constant state of anxiety. Some of the geniuses with talismans received the message from Su Fang and Diyuan's order. After some hesitation, the geniuses made their choice. Most of the geniuses who chose Diyuan came from the ancient divine world and the ancient divine clans and forces in the divine world. In their opinion, Diyuan was a supreme god. Not only was he powerful, but he was also born with the ability to control the heavenly way. His identity was also incomparably noble. The Yuan Tiangong would definitely do their best to save him. Their chances of survival would naturally multiply if they joined Diyuan. Join Su Fang? These geniuses from the ancient divine world and ancient divine clans and forces in the divine world scoffed at Su Fang and treated the message in the talisman as a joke. Some of the geniuses with humble backgrounds also knew that they would not be able to escape the fate of being cannon fodder if they joined Diyuan after receiving the message in the talisman. They made a different choice from the geniuses with noble backgrounds and rushed to Su Fang's divine nation. In the sky above a mountain range, more than a dozen resurrected big goblin and cultivators whose strength was comparable to a high-level ultimate god attacked a genius fiercely, setting off a vast death aura that covered the sky. Boom, boom, boom. This genius ignored the death aura of the resurrected experts and rampaged through the resurrected experts with his powerful divine body. He killed a resurrected expert with one punch and was unstoppable. In less than 20 breaths, more than a dozen resurrected experts were all killed by this genius. Buzz. This genius grabbed a talisman and penetrated it with his consciousness. He then sneered disdainfully. Whether it's Su Fang or Diyuan, who is qualified to be the master of my celestial treasure? Even if I'm alone, I can still survive in the divine world. Why should I join others? The divine world was about to face the apocalypse, and many geniuses made different choices. In the center of the divine world there was a huge divine nation. A huge mountain peak floated above the divine capital. It used to be the center of power of the divine nation, but now it was the place where Diyuan's palace was located. Not long after entering the divine world, Diyuan killed the most powerful expert in the divine nation and became the supreme ruler of the divine nation. All cultivators and mortals in the divine nation, listen to my orders. I'll give you a chance to live. If you don't follow my orders, you'll be killed without mercy. Chapter 21:59. The situation in the Panhung divine realm was becoming more and more serious. The resurrected experts were like a tidal wave, and their attacks were getting more and more violent. Although Su Fang and the other geniuses had strengthened the defensive barrier of the divine nation's imperial city, it was still being breached time and time again. The number of casualties among the cultivators and mortals of the divine nation continued to rise. More than 3,000 of the geniuses who participated in the Sixth Gate of Heaven's test had arrived in the divine nation, but there were also casualties in the fierce battles with the resurrected experts. Reinforcements from the Yuan Tiangong had yet to appear, as if they had forgotten about these geniuses in the Panhung divine realm. The geniuses couldn't see any hope of survival. However, they weren't in despair. Every cultivator pursues eternal life, but how many of them can achieve immortality? Since we're going to die anyway, why not seize every moment and live in the present? What's wrong with death? Don't seek eternal immortality, just a moment of youth. Just like the shooting star, although it's short, it will burn everything and shine brightly. Su Fang's words made all the geniuses understand the true meaning of cultivation, and they were no longer afraid of death. Including the geniuses, the cultivators and mortals of the divine nation, they laughed and charged at the resurrected experts. No one retreated and no one was afraid. 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. The divine nation's imperial city remained unmoved, and it stood tall like a miracle amidst the army of resurrected experts. The pills that only Dao Tharch had given to the geniuses when they entered the Panhung divine realm had long been used up. Su Fang had used the ingredients from the Panhung divine realm to fuse the pure Yang Qi and 9 Yin Qi to successfully create a pill that could help the geniuses recover. Although the quality of this pill was only mid-grade, it could fuse with divine energy and transform it into the mysterious Yin and Yang Qi. Furthermore, the pill contained an astonishing amount of vitality, and it also gave the geniuses unlimited vitality. Hence, it was named the Vitality Pill. Not only could the Vitality Pill be used to assist in cultivation, but it could also help the gods recover quickly. It could be said to have endless uses, and it solved the problem of Su Fang and the other geniuses. In addition, Su Fang also used the 9 Yang divine fire to refine a divine artifact. In the end, he succeeded in refining a mid-grade divine artifact. Although its power could not be compared to the divine artifacts of these geniuses, or even their natal divine artifacts, it was still much better than being unable to use any divine artifact. The Vitality Pill and Divine Artifact had greatly increased the overall strength of Su and the other geniuses. In the God Nation at the center of the Panhung Divine World, Di Yuan had gathered more than half of the geniuses who participated in the Sixth Gate of Heaven test. In addition to the large number of gods in the God Nation, their overall strength was more than 100 times that of Su Fang. However, the attacks on the empire under Di Yuan's control had also increased exponentially. Under the coercion of Di Yuan's strict orders, the gods of Scandinavia defended the periphery with all their might, suffering heavy casualties. At the periphery of the divine kingdom, powerful defenses built with divine abilities and formations were broken through layer by the revived experts. Kill! Di Yuan displayed the decisiveness and coldness of an overlord. With a single order, blood flowed like a river, and countless gods were killed. Some of the geniuses who retreated in the battle were also mercilessly suppressed by Di Yuan. Under Di Yuan's harsh orders, the gods of the divine nation died to the last person. The geniuses also began to suffer casualties, and the defense finally retreated to the giant mountain floating above the divine capital. The divine nation's cannon fodder had been used up, and the geniuses became the new cannon fodder. As the days passed, the reinforcements from the Yuan Tiangong that Di Yuan mentioned didn't appear. Many geniuses fell into despair. Some geniuses began to defect, and the result was that they died even faster. Some geniuses couldn't see any hope and gave up on themselves. Their Tao heart even collapsed, and they fell into a state of madness. Yuan looked at all of this coldly. Everyone can die, but I can't. Even if the heavenly Tao is destroyed in the end, I will die with it. In the depths of the divine nation, under the siege of countless resurrected experts, heavenly treasure couldn't escape death no matter how strong his divine body was. I can't accept this. Heavenly treasure let out a roar filled with despair before he was torn to pieces by the resurrected experts. In the depths of the Yuan Tiangong, inside a majestic palace, a huge light screen appeared in the center of the main hall. The scenes displayed on the light screen were exactly what was happening in the divine nation. Streaks of illusory primordial spirit consciousnesses were watching every movement on the light screen. In the face of despair, some people are unwilling, some people are greedy and selfish, and some people are in despair and even lose their rationality. However, some people are the exact opposite. They're looking for the last ray of hope in a hopeless situation, and they won't give up even until the last moment. The test of the sixth gate of heaven not only tests the genius's ability to survive, but it also tests their performance in the face of despair. It seems like only Yuan and Su Fang's performance is the most outstanding. An old voice sounded in the main hall. It turned out that everything that happened in the divine nation was a test carefully planned by the Yuan Tiangong expert. The venerable sovereign of Sanskrit's voice sounded. This emperor feels that Yuan's performance is far superior to Su Fang's. In the face of despair, Yuan planned a strategy and organized many geniuses and native gods to resist. This kid is a natural-born overlord, and the one who will take on great responsibilities in the future will definitely be Yuan. Then, another venerable sovereign said, "The venerable sovereign of Sanskrit is right. The future apocalypse will require a commander like Yuan." Yuan was born of the imperial people. The imperial people controlled the power of the heavenly Tao, and the Yuan Tiangong was created by the imperial people. Now that the venerable sovereign of Sanskrit had praised Yuan, the other venerable sovereigns didn't say anything. After a long silence, the venerable sovereign of only Tao's majestic voice sounded. This emperor feels that Su Fang's performance in the divine nation is in no way inferior to Yuan's. The old voice sounded again. "Oh? Say something, only Tao." In the future apocalypse, not only will we need an overlord who can command all sides, but we also need someone like Su Fang who dares to take on responsibilities and step forward. In the midst of the apocalypse, an overlord's iron fist might not be able to conquer the hearts of the people. As soon as the venerable sovereign of only Tao finished speaking, the venerable sovereign of Sangqiu continued. Yuan and the geniuses he gathered are waiting for the Yuan Tiangong's rescue. Su Fang, Goddess Luo, and the others are creating opportunities for themselves. Even in the face of death, they are fearless. Just from this point alone, Su Fang is better than Yuan. Wei Dao and Sangqiu's words caused the Brahma clan's sovereign to snort in disdain. Su Fang is being too soft-hearted. He's sacrificing himself for a group of ant-like aboriginals. How can someone with the heart of a woman bear such great responsibility? Soft-hearted? The venerable sovereign of Sanskrit chuckled. It seems that when the apocalypse truly arrives, you will not hesitate to abandon Sanskrit, even your children and family. Sanskrit, as expected of an ancient god clan that has survived until now. The venerable sovereign of Sanskrit snorted inexplicably and did not say anything else. The main hall fell into silence once again. Only the scene of death was left on the screen of light. About 300 years had passed in the Pan-Heng divine realm. The last line of defense of the divine nation controlled by Yuan was finally breached. Yuan and the surviving geniuses had no choice but to engage in a final battle with the resurrected expert. Even at the very last moment, they did not wait for reinforcements to arrive. All the geniuses, including Yuan, fell into complete despair. Buji, will become the master of a star field and dominate all the worlds in the universe. I am not willing to die just like this. I have yet to enter the Yuan Tiangong, but I died in the palace entrance test. Why is the heavenly Tao so unfair? The Yuan Tiangong, didn't you gather all the venerable sovereigns in all the worlds in the universe? Why can't you even save the tiny Pan Hung divine realm? It's all Di Yuan's fault. If he hadn't gathered us here and used us as cannon fodder, how could we have fallen into the encirclement of the resurrected experts? All the geniuses lost their willpower and fell into a frenzy. Some of them charged at the resurrected experts in a frenzy, hoping to die. Some of them burned their divine bodies and attacked Di Yuan crazily. The divine nation that Su Fang was in only lasted a dozen years longer than Di Yuan. The imperial city of the divine nation was heavily surrounded by the resurrected experts. Among the resurrected experts, there were even 3 powerful resurrected experts comparable to domain lords, the big goblin and the demon race. It was only a matter of time before the imperial city fell completely. Xuanxin, do you regret it? At the last moment, Su Fang looked at Xuanxin. Xuanxin smiled, looking absolutely stunning. What's there to regret if I can die with you? I have no regrets in this life. If there is a next life, I will still have no regret. Goddess Luo smiled faintly. Su Fang, you don't have to ask me. Death is nothing to me. I have no regrets if I can die with you. Sigh. Su Fang suddenly let out a sigh. Xuanxin and Goddess Luo looked at Su Fang in surprise. Su Fang touched the tip of his nose. I have always had a wish that I could never fulfill. I'm afraid I will regret it for the rest of my life. Xuanxin quickly asked, What wish? Goddess Luo snorted. How can I not know his wish? He wants both of us to serve him at the same time. Ever since he returned to the divine nation, he had been fighting for days. He was either refining pills or forging artifacts. When did he have time to be intimate with Xuanxin and Goddess Luo? As for having both of them serve him at the same time, Su Fang had only thought about it. He didn't expect Goddess Luo to see through him. You bad person! Xuanxin's face instantly turned red. Su Fang said helplessly, Things have already come to this. Why can't you fulfill this small wish of mine and let me die without regret? Xuanxin hesitated and looked at Goddess Luo. Why don't? Goddess Luo immediately exclaimed, Don't even think about it. Xuanxin, don't fall for this bad person's trick. Since I can't fulfill my wish, I can only die with regrets. Let's go. Su Fang led Xuanxin and Goddess Luo out of the imperial city. Chapter 2160. Su Fang, thank you so much. Thank you for letting me know that death can be so satisfying. Sun Qi laughed loudly. His laughter was full of heroism, magnanimity, and no fear. Then, he charged towards a revived expert who had surpassed the ultimate god realm. Like a moth to a flame, he didn't hesitate. Even when he died, his laughter still echoed in the world. Satisfying, this is so satisfying. I didn't live for nothing after dying so easily. Ha ha ha, the geniuses and native cultivators were like Sun Qi. They laughed as they charged towards the revived experts. They were fearless and didn't care about death. Why did people live? In the end, it was because of the fear of death. Once they died, everything would cease to exist. No one wasn't afraid of death. They would work hard to escape death for their entire lives. The ultimate goal of cultivators and cultivators was none other than to pursue immortality and achieve the legendary eternal life. These geniuses weren't even afraid of death right now. They were naturally open-minded and didn't feel any pain. Su Fang, Xuanxin, and Goddess Luo were also like arrows at the end of their flight. They were surrounded by countless revived experts and couldn't escape. Su Fang looked towards the sky with a slight smile. His eyes flashed with extreme disdain and mockery. Then, he called Xuanxin and Goddess Luo to his side. Die. A revived demon god, whose strength had reached the level of an area lord, exploded with death chi and demonic chi. It enveloped the 3 of them. Then, a palm print with a terrifying aura crushed towards the three of them. Su Fang hugged Xuanxin and Goddess Luo in his arms. He had his back facing the revived demon god and protected them in front of his chest. He transmitted his Yuan spirit to the two of them. "Don't worry, I'm here." Xuanxin's heart was filled with satisfaction and happiness. At this moment, it didn't matter if the world fell apart. Goddess Luo saw the calmness in Su Fang's eyes and was puzzled. In a flash, the giant palm print swallowed Su Fang, Xuanxin, and Goddess Luo, turning them into dust. Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes as if he had just experienced a lifetime of reincarnation. It turned out that he had returned to the Yuan Tiangong and appeared in the square in front of the sixth gate of heaven. Everything he had experienced in the Pan-Heng divine world had been an illusion. However, this was by no means an ordinary illusory realm. It was created by an Emperor Master's supreme divine ability. The only difference between it and the real world was that death was not real life. This was the test of the sixth gate of heaven. "We didn't die?" When Xuanxin found that he was still lying in Su Fang's arms, he was pleasantly surprised. But she couldn't believe it. She opened her mouth and bit Su Fang's shoulder. Goddess Luo smiled and said, "There is no need to try. We are not dead." After Xuanxin confirmed that the three of them were not dead, he smiled and resumed his cold appearance as the peerless genius of the Divine Phoenix ancient clan. However, his eyes shone with excitement. What could be more fortunate than coming back from the dead? She held Su Fang's hand tightly, as if she was afraid that Su Fang would fly away. Goddess Luo spoke to Su Fang using her primordial spirit. "I know you have a supreme divine artifact. Even the Pan-Heng divine world can't suppress the supreme power of a divine artifact, but you didn't take it out. You already knew that the Pan-Heng divine world was an illusion, right?" "It was just a guess," Su Fang replied truthfully. "Then why didn't you say it out loud?" The powerhouses of Primordius Heavenly Palace racked their brains to create such an illusion in order to test me for the sixth gate of heaven. If I were to expose them, what face would those emperor powerhouses have left? After a pause, Su Fang continued, "I know that after this test, even if I enter the Yuan Tiangong, it will be difficult for me to see you and Xuanxin again, especially you. So I want to experience the life and death experience with you. This way I will never forget it." Goddess Luo fell silent, but her heart was filled with gratitude. "Who knew?" Su Fang then sighed, "What a pity. You didn't get to fulfill your wish until you died." "Bah!" Xuanxin and Goddess Luo blushed. They shook off Su Fang's hand at the same time and sat down cross-legged on the square. Su Fang touched the tip of his nose. It seemed that the possibility of his wish being fulfilled was close to zero. On the square, all the geniuses who participated in the test of the sixth gate of heaven had returned to the real world. Even Fan Shu, who was killed by Su Fang, appeared on the square. What happened in the Pan-Heng divine world made them feel as if they had come back from the dead. Some were shocked, some were relieved, and some were scared. Su Fang, Yin Buji, Fan Shu, and the other geniuses killed by Su Fang stared at Su Fang with hatred. When they first entered the Pan-Heng divine world, Yin Buji was severely injured by Su Fang. He didn't last long in the Pan-Heng divine world before he was devoured by a resurrected big goblin. Fan Shu and the other geniuses from the ancient god world were suppressed by Su Fang. Although they had come back from the dead, it didn't feel good to be killed by Su Fang. Moreover, their results in the test of the sixth gate of heaven weren't any better. How could they not hate Su Fang to the core? "Su Fang, thank you." Sun Qi and the other geniuses, mainly those who followed Su Fang in the Pan-Heng divine world, came forward and cupped their fists to thank Su Fang. The test of the sixth gate of heaven was survival. They had survived the longest in the Pan-Heng divine world, so their results were definitely much better than the other geniuses. Their gains were even greater because facing death fearlessly this time had tempered their Tao hearts as well. At this moment, all of them felt as if they'd been cleansed of all impurities, and there were no obstructions in their hearts. It was a great breakthrough in their mental states as well. All of this was thanks to Su Fang. How could they not be grateful to Su Fang? Unlike Su Fang, Diyuan didn't receive any gratitude from the other geniuses. Instead, he attracted hateful gazes. Why was that? In the Pangheng sacred realm, Su Fang treated the other geniuses, even the cultivators and mortals of the Pangheng sacred realm, as his equals and friends. Diyuan, on the other hand, treated everyone as a tool to control. Naturally, the geniuses began to distance themselves from Diyuan. Even the geniuses from the ancient god world were polite and respectful to Diyuan. However, this politeness and respect hid their vigilance. Tianbao sat cross-legged in a corner, looking very lonely. After experiencing death, he was like a sword that had withdrawn its sharpness. He looked very ordinary, but he had become even more terrifying. Fellow geniuses, after experiencing death, how do you feel? Only Dao Sovereign's figure appeared in front of the square. The geniuses all smiled bitterly. This time, they had been played like monkeys by Diyuan. If they had any feelings, what else could they feel other than fear and despair? Your cultivation aptitude is unparalleled in the myriad worlds. However, most of you are just flowers growing in a greenhouse, unable to bear the brunt of the storm. Heaven and earth are changing continuously, and the myriad worlds are facing a catastrophe of destruction. Diyuan created the Yuan Tiangong not to cultivate flowers, but to cultivate pine and cypress trees that are cold and unyielding. Only Dao Sovereign's voice suddenly became sharp. Many geniuses lowered their heads. Some revealed thoughtful expressions, while others revealed ashamed expressions. Based on your performance in the Panheng Divine World, your results in the Sixth Heaven test will be determined. After passing through the Sixth Heaven Gate, you will see your result. Only Dao Sovereign waved his hand, and the geniuses flew toward the Sixth Heaven Gate one after another. Every genius who passed through the Heaven Gate had an illusion that clearly showed their performance in the Panheng Divine World, and even the scene of them being killed. These geniuses had experienced death again. After passing through the Sixth Heaven Gate, their faces were pale, and their bodies were trembling. Those geniuses who were killed as soon as they entered the Panheng Divine World were all ashamed. They were naturally filled with hatred for the people who killed them. Many geniuses had died at the hands of Su Fang, so he attracted the most hatred. However, Su Fang also attracted many grateful gazes, naturally from the geniuses who had faced the resurrected powerhouses with him. Of course, Su Fang also attracted the shyness, anger, and even the murderous gazes of Xuanxin and Goddess Luo. Everything that happened between the two of them in the Panheng Divine World was also shown in the illusion. It was unknown if the Diyuan Tiangong powerhouses saw it. For Diyuan Tiangong powerhouses, sex was no different from eating and drinking. Even if they saw it, they would just laugh it off and not take it to heart. At the same time, the results of the geniuses on the gold roll above the illusion kept changing. Every time the rankings changed, the powerhouses from all directions would exclaim in surprise. They didn't know what happened in the Panheng Divine World, so it was difficult to predict the results of the geniuses. Fan Shu didn't take the test of the Fifth Heaven Gate, but he will definitely amaze the world in the Sixth Heaven Gate. The Sanskrit powerhouses from the ancient god world all stared at the gold roll with wide eyes. Finally, it was Fan Shu's turn. After he entered the Sixth Heaven Gate, his name on the gold roll flashed, and there was a shocking change. The change was indeed shocking, but it didn't rise, but fell, and fell out of the top 10,000. The Sanskrit powerhouses were all dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. The geniuses with the worst results were those who were killed as soon as they entered the Panheng Divine World, then those who died at the hands of the resurrected powerhouses. Although Tian Bao was alone, his results were impressive, and he jumped to the first place. Of course, this was only temporary. There were still many people whose results hadn't appeared yet. The geniuses who followed Di Yuan all had amazing results, causing waves of exclamations. However, compared to those who followed Su Fang, mainly the geniuses who came from humble backgrounds, their results were even more amazing. They were even better than some of the geniuses from the ancient god world. The expressionless Di Yuan stepped into the sixth heaven gate. Chapter 2161. After passing the sixth gate of heaven test, Di Yuan ranked first, attracting the attention of everyone and causing a commotion. Many strong cultivators all thought that Di Yuan would be the undisputed first place. No one could surpass him, and his results would make the other geniuses look up to him. Indeed, later Tian Bao, Xuanxin, Goddess Luo, and other geniuses who passed the sixth gate of heaven in succession had outstanding results, but they were far from Di Yuan's. When Su Fang passed through the sixth gate of heaven, other than Xian Lingzi and the Blue Dome Domain Lord, only the Sanskrit, the Yin tribe, and the ancient Divine Phoenix clan paid special attention to him. The sixth gate of heaven test, this lowly ant's result will definitely fall below the top 1,000. Fan Shu stared at the gold list and gritted her teeth. Her face was a little ferocious. Yin Buji's expression was even worse than Fan Shu's. His face was distorted, and the foundation on his face was falling, but he didn't even notice. On the huge palace phantom, the gold list's ranking changed greatly. Su Fang's name appeared in second place. Goddess Luo, second only to Di Yuan. Not only that, although there was a gap between her and Di Yuan, it was not so big that it was insurmountable. This scene attracted countless gazes to the name on the gold list. Their eyes were filled with surprise, shock, and then exclamations of disbelief. As soon as Su Fang appeared in the square outside the seventh gate of heaven, he looked up at the gold list. Second place. Even Su Fang himself was very surprised. However, he was naturally very happy in his heart. How could Su Fang not be excited? Every time he advanced a rank in the palace test, it meant thousands of chances of survival? As long as there were no major accidents in the last gate of heaven test, it was certain that he would be in the top 10. I did it. Father, master, and other friends and subordinates can all live in the Yuan Tiangong. Even if the catastrophe explodes, they will be able to survive. Su Fang's eyes flickered with excitement. An indescribable sense of accomplishment and confidence rose in his heart. Looking at Su Fang, Xuanxin's eyes were filled with pride. She felt as if a huge rock had been lifted from her heart. Before, she had been very worried that the ancient Divine Phoenix clan would stop her and Su Fang. Now that Su Fang had such amazing results, the ancient Divine Phoenix clan would definitely consider it carefully. Goddess Luo was also looking at Su Fang. Her eyes were burning, but there was a hint of gloom in them. Su Fang, congratulations! Sun Qi and the other geniuses who had fought alongside Su Fang in the Pan-Hung Divine World came forward to congratulate him. Those geniuses from the ancient god world, the ancient god clans, and the top forces in the divine world were naturally envious and jealous. Fan Shu, Yin Buji, and the others looked at Su Fang with jealousy and murderous intent. If it weren't for Su Fang, how could they have performed so badly in the sixth gate of heaven test? Tianbao sat cross-legged at the edge of the square. His eyes were filled with shock. Su Fang is indeed heaven-defying. So what? No one is qualified to be my master. I, Tianbao, will never become anyone's tool. Looking at Su Fang, who was surrounded by stars, the corners of Di Yuan's mouth curled up. He revealed a domineering smile. It was more interesting when there was a threat. The middle-aged man from Primordius Heavenly Palace appeared on the square. Because you have passed 2 successive tests of the Gate of Heavens, all of you are mentally and physically exhausted. Thus, Honorable Emperor Unidao has decided to allow you all to rest for 100 years and restore your strength in preparation for the 7th Gate of Heavens. As soon as he finished speaking, the geniuses were sent to the outer void by the array. Then, they returned to their respective forces. You are Su Fang? Su Fang was looking for Goddess Luo and Xuanxin when a middle-aged man with a big head and a group of experts blocked his way. Seeing Yin Buji behind him, Su Fang immediately understood that this ugly middle-aged man should be the ruler of the Yin tribe. His strength was unfathomable. Su Fang cupped his fists and said, "Su Fang greets the senior of the Yin tribe. It's really unexpected that such a peerless genius could appear in the myriad worlds." The ancestor of the Yin tribe smiled. Su Fang's life-shrinking technique and heaven's expansion mystery solution could sense a great danger. This seemingly amiable ancestor of the Yin tribe was like a dormant, ancient, ferocious beast. The ancestor of the Yin tribe continued with a smile, "You ascended from the great world and have no ties in the myriad worlds. The quota to enter the Yuan Tiangong is of no use to you. The Yin tribe wants to buy the quota from you at a high price. 1 supreme grade pill for 1 quota. What do you think? 1 supreme grade pill for 1 quota. That's really a high price." Su Fang couldn't help but laugh. In order to get a quota to enter the Yuan Tiangong from the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce, the Blue Dome Domain Lord had to give up 1.5 creation divine weapon and 10 directions world in exchange for 1,000 quotas. The ancestor of the Yin tribe actually wanted to exchange a supreme grade pill for 1 quota from Su Fang. What was the difference between this and robbery? The old man of the Yin tribe said, "What? Do you think the price is too low? Because of you, I was disqualified in the 5th heaven. And because of you, you attacked me in the Pan-Hung divine world. Because of that, I got nothing in the 6th heavens test. My ranking is almost at the bottom." Yin Buji said in a gloomy voice. "If you don't want to die, hand over your quota obediently. Consider it as a way to save your life. Otherwise," Yin Buji snorted and his tone was full of threat. The ancestor of the Yin tribe reprimanded him. "Yin Buji, don't be rude in front of young Master Su Fang. The Yin tribe just wants to make a deal with young Master Su Fang. We won't force you. Since the Yin tribe is willing to pay such a high price, there's no need to worry about not being able to buy a quota. I don't have any extra quotas. Please forgive me, senior." Su Fang looked apologetic. He cupped his fists and bowed to the ancestor of the Yin tribe before he left. Many sharp gazes fell on Su Fang's back. Su Fang sneered in disdain and flew forward calmly. He was currently ranked 2nd and everyone's attention was on him. Even many Emperor Realm Masters attached great importance to him. With Ji Wuji as an example, the Yin tribe wouldn't dare to attack him if they didn't want to be suppressed. He used his peak stage ability and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to sense Xuanxin and Goddess Luo. He found that Xuanxin had returned to the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan, but Goddess Luo was nowhere to be seen. Xianlingzi, the Blue Dome Domain Lord, the Star Billow Domain Lord and the others came forward to welcome Su Fang back to the Blue Dome 9 domains. When he returned to the main hall, everyone naturally congratulated him. Seeing everyone's eager looks, Su Fang knew what they were thinking. After thinking for a while, he said, "Domain Lord, how many quotas do you need?" The Blue Dome Domain Lord hesitated for a while and said, 1,000 quotas are enough. As for the price, it's negotiable." "How can 1,000 quotas be enough?" Su Fang smiled. "Domain Lord, I am indebted to you, so I'll give you 1,000 quotas. In addition, I'll give you another 10,000 quotas, but you'll need to exchange them with resources. As for the price, we'll use the standard of 1 supreme grade divine artifact for 1 quota," Su Fang said to the Blue Dome Domain Lord after thinking for a while. The Blue Dome Domain Lord was surprised and delighted. Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce had asked for an exorbitant price. The price of a quota to enter Yuan Tiangong had skyrocketed. A supreme grade divine artifact was nothing to a domain lord. 1 supreme grade divine artifact in exchange for a quota was no different from giving it away. Giving away 1,000 quotas and getting another 10,000 quotas was far beyond the Blue Dome Domain Lord's expectations. How could he not be surprised? Su Fang then looked at Zhu Yanjun and Qishao Shinjun and said, I am indebted to both of you in the past. I can't repay you, so I'll give each of you 1,000 quotas to enter Yuan Tiangong. Is that enough? Zhu Yanjun and Qishao Shinjun were stunned. Then, they were surprised and delighted. They nodded repeatedly and said, Yes, it's enough. It was extremely difficult for the Blue Dome Domain Lord to get 1,000 quotas. How could they not be surprised when Su Fang gave it to them directly? The other Heaven Lords and Divine Emperors in the Cyan Dome Star Field looked at the two of them with envy. Su Fang then said to the Star Billow Domain Lord and Kuan Su, My quotas will be of great use. I can only give each of you 5,000 quotas. Please forgive me. The Star Billow Domain Lord and Kuan Su immediately became dizzy. They felt as if a big pie had fallen from the sky and directly into their mouth. In fact, Su Fang made this decision after careful consideration. Even if there was an accident in the test of the seventh gate of heaven, he could still guarantee that he would be in the top 100, which meant that he would have at least 200,000 quotas. Of course, these quotas were not enough for all of Su Fang's subordinates. He could only bring some of his important relatives and friends first, and then his subordinates into Yuan Tiangong. After entering Yuan Tiangong, he would have a chance to get more quotas. At that time, he would think of other ways. Giving these quotas to the Blue Dome Domain Lord and the others was also a way to settle all the matters after ascending to the heavens. There were still 100 years before the test of the seventh gate of heaven. Su Fang could use this time to digest what he had gained in the test and strive to make a breakthrough before the final test. Unexpectedly, on that day, there was an endless stream of guests in the 9 domains of heaven. These people came from 8 different forces in the heavens. Some came to express their goodwill to Su Fang, while others came for the quotas that Su Fang was about to get. Su Fang had no choice but to deal with them. Fatty Zhu from the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce also came to Su Fang to buy quotas. Naturally, he was rejected by Su Fang. 3 months later, the 9 domains of heaven finally calmed down. Just as Su Fang was about to go into seclusion to cultivate, a few more uninvited guests came. It turned out that it was Xing Wuji and Mo Tiangong who came from Yuan Tiangong. The 3 divine kings also came with them. Su Fang was pleasantly surprised. Qingyu had not recovered from his serious injuries. Su Fang had been looking for Xing Wuji to heal Qingyu, but he could not enter Yuan Tiangong. It had been delayed until now. Chapter 2162. Xing Wuji's arrival was simply too timely. Without waiting for him to explain his intentions, Su Fang immediately asked him to save Qingyu. Seeing how anxious Su Fang was, Xing Wuji realized how important Qingyu was to him. He did not dare to be negligent and immediately examined Qingyu. Seeing that Qingyu's injuries were not particularly serious, Xing Wuji said to Su Fang, It's nothing. Only then did Su Fang let out a sigh of relief. If Qingyu had been injured by Ji Wuji, Su Fang would definitely regret it for the rest of his life. This rock demon is quite lucky to be able to obtain such high-grade life blood qi and chaotic qi. Chaotic qi in particular is quite rare. It's not easy for me to obtain even a strand. It's precisely because the blood qi and chaotic qi are too high-grade that the rock demon is unable to completely fuse with them. Otherwise, his injuries would have healed long ago. I only need to use my ability to stimulate his life essence and fuse with it. This little rock demon will recover very quickly. Not only will he return to his peak state, but he will also advance to the next level. Xing Wuji was an overgod that surpassed the region lords. Moreover, he was proficient in the mysterious great Tao of life. Su Fang naturally trusted his words. Thank you, sir. Su Fang clasped his fists respectfully and thanked him. At the same time, Su Fang was filled with emotions. If he was not powerful and had not performed outstandingly in the palace entrance test, why would a lofty overgod save Qingyu? No matter when or who, strength was always the way. Qingyu was also very happy. He secretly communicated with Su Fang, "You're still the one who's respected. You even managed to invite an overgod." Xing Wuji waved his hand in a forthright manner, "No need to thank me. I came this time because I wanted to talk to you. Saving this rock demon is just a small matter." Su Fang asked, "Senior, why are you looking for me?" Mo Tiangong smiled. "The farmer wants to ask you for some quotas to enter the Yuan Tiangong." Su Fang said in surprise, "With your status, it shouldn't be difficult for you to obtain a quota, right?" Mo Tiangong said, "The farmer and I are both guardians of the primordial chaos golden list, so each of us received 1,000,000 spots. 1,000,000 might seem like a lot, but to those major forces and the God clan, it's nothing but a drop in the bucket." Mo Tiangong was telling the truth. In a small realm, there were tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of deities, let alone those great powers. To such a force, 1,000,000 slots were not even enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. Mo Tiangong continued with a smile, "Although the farmer doesn't control a force in the divine world, this old man has countless Tao companions in the past. Moreover, this old man's reproductive ability can be said to be number one in the myriad of worlds. After hundreds of millions of years, the number of descendants under his name is in the billions, if not billions. How can 1,000,000 people be enough? Billions of descendants." Su Fang was completely stunned. He looked at infinite life with eyes full of admiration. The reproduction of deities was not like that of mortals. Not only did it take a long time to conceive, but their reproductive ability was also far inferior to that of mortals. The stronger one was, the more this was the case. This was also a kind of heavenly law. Otherwise, all the realms would have been overcrowded by deities. Infinite life had billions of descendants, which was really amazing. Su Fang was full of admiration. Infinite Life's face flushed red, but he said with conviction, "This old man is so good at reproducing. You're not convinced? Blacksmith, if you have the ability, why don't you try reproducing a few too?" Mo Tiangong laughed. "I really don't have the ability. If I have the energy, I'd rather refine a few more divine artifacts." Su Fang smiled bitterly. "Infinite life, the most I can get is 200,000 slots, a few billion." Infinite Life waved his hand. "This old man can only get some slots for those promising descendants. How can I get everyone into the Yuan Tiangong? Even venerable sovereigns don't have this ability. If you have enough slots, just give me 10 or 20,000. Afraid that Su Fang would be embarrassed, Infinite Life added, "Don't worry. With your talent, once you enter the Yuan Tiangong, you'll quickly get more slots. You don't have to worry about not having enough slots. Otherwise, this old man wouldn't be so thick-skinned as to ask you for a slot." Mo Tiangong said, "You still don't know, but you're amazing. Your performance at the 5th and 6th gates of heaven shocked all the venerable sovereigns. Many venerable sovereigns want to take you as their disciple. Once you enter the Yuan Tiangong, it won't be difficult to get a slot." "There's such a thing?" Su Fang was surprised and happy. Being valued by the venerable sovereigns was a great thing. At least the ancient divine clans like the Sanskrit and the Yin clan wouldn't dare to easily reach out their claws to him. Su Fang was relieved. "In that case, after the palace entrance test, I'll give 50,000 slots to Infinite Life G. If there are more slots in the future, I'll give some more to you. Kid, you really have a conscience. You didn't disappoint this old man and the blacksmith's expectations of you. Let this old man treat this rock first." Infinite Life G was very satisfied. He took so many slots from Su Fang, so he felt a little guilty. Looking at Shu Yunkong, Infinite Life G continued, "You should be Su Fang's master, right? The Shu clan used to be a powerful celestial race in the myriad of worlds. I didn't expect them to fall to this extent. Your life force is weak. You're barely alive. Since I'm treating one or two of you, I might as well treat you as well." Su Fang asked Shu Yunkong to come with him to see Infinite Life G because of this. He didn't expect Infinite Life G to take the initiative to ask him. He was overjoyed and cupped his fists to thank Infinite Life G. Infinite Life G brought Qin Yu and Shu Yunkong out of the palace. The Blue Dome Domain Lord immediately brought him to a secluded palace to treat their injuries. After Infinite Life G left, Mo Tiangong pointed at a red-robed middle-aged man beside the three divine kings and said, "This is the clan leader of the fire god Zhu clan. He has something to ask of you. I used to owe the Zhu clan a big favor. If you can help him, please help him once. Consider it as repaying the favor on my behalf. If you can't, it's okay." The fire god Zhu clan? Su Fang's divine light changed slightly. The Zhu clan was a powerful human clan in the primordial era. Their fire elemental divine arts were unparalleled. Their ancestor, Zhu Rong, was extremely powerful and was revered as the fire god. Su Fang once saved the Zhu clan in the primordial battlefield of immortals and demons. He even took Zhu Yan as his in-name disciple. Right now, he was cultivating in the Blue Dome 9 domains. Su Fang didn't expect to meet the fire god Zhu clan in the myriad domains. Moreover, it was the clan leader of the fire god Zhu clan. He was very surprised and began to re-evaluate the Zhu clan leader. Apart from his eye-catching red hair, there was nothing outstanding about this person. He looked like an ordinary, honest middle-aged man. However, Su Fang used his great perfection ability to sense carefully. He immediately sensed that there was an astonishing amount of fire elemental energy hidden under this person's aura. He was like a dormant volcano. Once it erupted, its fire elemental might could burn the sky. The moment he sensed the fire elemental aura of the Zhu clan leader, the 9 suns divine fire in Su Fang's body suddenly became restless. It actually went out of control. Su Fang felt that the 9 suns divine fire seemed to have met a worthy opponent and was eager to test its strength. The Zhu clan leader looked at Su Fang in surprise. Flames burned in his eyes, flashing with a terrifying illusion of flames burning the sky. Boom! A fire elemental might burst out from the two of them at the same time. When they collided, an earth-shattering explosion sounded. Astonishing flames swept across the surroundings. The tables and chairs in the surroundings were instantly turned into ashes. Even the formation of the Green Dome 9 domains melted layer by layer. Fortunately, Mo Tiangong saw that the situation was not good and acted in time. He used his divine might to dissolve the power of the collision. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Su Fang was sent flying. Fortunately, the defense of the ancestral dragon armor dissolved the divine might of the Zhu clan leader. Otherwise, Su Fang would have been seriously injured. Boom! The 9 suns divine fire and prehistoric inflammation rushed out from Su Fang's body and quickly turned into the illusory fire cloud. Su Fang immediately turned into a burning man. The domineering divine might formed by the fusion of the 2 great flames burned and merged with the Zhu clan leader's fire elemental might. It wanted to control it. The Zhu clan leader shouted, "Illusory fire cloud? How do you know my clan's supreme divine ability?" Su Fang answered, "The illusory fire cloud was taught by a friend of mine. I never knew it was the Zhu clan's divine ability." The Zhu clan leader asked, "Who is your friend?" "He's also a relative of mine. However, he's definitely not from the Zhu clan." Mo Tiangong saw that the atmosphere was not right. He moved in front of Su Fang and said, "Old Zhu, let's talk nicely." The Zhu clan leader retracted his divine might and returned to his normal appearance. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "My temper is bad. I lost control for a moment. Little friend Su Fang, please don't take it to heart." Su Fang also retracted the 9 suns divine fire and prehistoric inflammation and returned to his corporeal state. The 3 divine kings watched this scene from the side and were shocked. When they sat down again, the Zhu clan leader said, "The illusory fire cloud is a supreme divine ability created by one of the peerless geniuses of my clan. It's also my only son, Zhu Fengtian. Later on, he entered a secret realm and his whereabouts are unknown. The reason why I asked Master Mo to come out is to ask for little friend Su Fang's help. Secret realm. Su Fang was enlightened. The illusory fire cloud came from Shu Wanjin. Shu Wanjin was chased by the Ji people and escaped into a mysterious secret realm. She was trapped inside and couldn't escape until now. Su Fang speculated that Shu Wanjin must have met this peerless genius of the Zhu clan and obtained this supreme fire divine ability from him. Su Fang asked, "Lord Clan Leader wants me to enter the secret realm and help you find your son?" Mo Tiangong explained, "You might not know this, but that secret realm has been sealed by the Yuan Tiangong. It's now a training ground for the Yuan Tiangong geniuses. Other than the peerless geniuses of the Yuan Tiangong, no one else can enter. Furthermore, the secret realm is extremely dangerous. Ordinary geniuses will definitely die if they enter, so old Zhu wants to ask for your help." Chapter 2163. The Zhu clan leader looked at Su Fang with a face full of expectation. Su Fang shook his head and said, "That relative of mine is also trapped in the mystery realm, unable to escape." The Zhu clan leader revealed a look of disbelief. Su Fang did not explain anything and asked, "Senior, may I ask what kind of mystery realm it is?" In order to find Shu Wanjin, Shu Yunkong had once gone to that mystery realm. He was only at the periphery, but he was seriously injured and could not go deeper. Shu Wanjin was still trapped inside and was unable to escape. At this time, the mystery realm was sealed by Yuan Tiangong and used as a place for peerless geniuses to gain experience. This made Su Fang very curious about this mystery realm. Mo Tiangong said, "That mystery realm is actually an incomplete palace, called the Descending Divine Palace." Descending Divine Palace? The reason why it is called descending is because of its origin. About an era ago, the voice of the heavenly way suddenly rang out in the universe, descending. The voice spread throughout the ancient God world and the God world. Then, this incomplete divine palace descended. Su Fang was surprised. There was such a thing? After the appearance of the descending divine palace, countless experts went to explore it. Who knew that the periphery of the descending divine palace was extremely dangerous, let alone the inside. Even venerable emperors found it difficult to enter. There was even an venerable emperor who tried to forcibly put away the divine palace. In the end, he was counterattacked by the heavenly way released by the divine palace and almost lost his life. Even an venerable emperor almost lost his life? Su Fang sucked in a breath of cold air, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. In the universe, venerable emperors were existences equivalent to the heavenly way. An incomplete divine palace was actually able to injure a peerless venerable emperor. How unimaginable was this? After that, there were still people who did not give up and entered the Advent Divine Palace to explore. In the end, they never returned. Thus, this divine ruin became a forbidden ground in the myriad of worlds. Very few people went to explore it after that. At this point, Mo Tiangong switched to a Yuan spirit transmission. There are many different opinions about the origin of the descending divine palace, but the Emperor Masters all agree that the descending divine palace came from the exalted celestial mountain, and the heavenly way voice that appeared when the descending divine palace descended was most likely produced by a heavenly venerable of Genesis. After the sixth world metamorphosis, the Emperor Realm Masters thought of the Advent Divine Palace. Perhaps they could find some clues about the world metamorphosis there, so they decided to use the Advent Divine Palace as a training ground for peerless geniuses. Su Fang asked, "Since the Advent Palace is so dangerous, wouldn't it be sending the geniuses to their deaths? The periphery of the Advent God Palace is very dangerous, but for those geniuses who can enter the Yuan Tiangong, as long as they don't go too deep into the Advent God Palace, there won't be any fatal danger. On the one hand, it can be used as a training ground, and on the other hand, it can be used to find some clues." Mo Tiangong's words made Su Fang start to worry about Xu Wan. It was now certain that Xu Wan was really trapped in the depths of the Advent God Palace. Even Emperor Realm Masters couldn't do anything to the Advent God Palace, so Xu Wan's chances of escaping were very slim. Looking at the Zhu clan patriarch, Su Fang shook his head. Sir Patriarch, the Advent God Palace is so dangerous. Even if I go there to train in the future, I will at most stay in the periphery and will not enter the Divine Palace. Sir Patriarch's request, please forgive me for not agreeing. The Zhu clan patriarch looked disappointed and hesitated for a moment before continuing. The illusory fire cloud is a divine ability created by my son, Zhu Fengtian. He didn't teach it to the other clansmen. Little friend Su Fang understood his thoughts. Since the illusory fire cloud is your Zhu clan's divine ability, this one will naturally return it to the Zhu clan. However, I have a small condition that I hope Sir Patriarch can fulfill. What is your condition? Please state it. The Zhu clan patriarch thought that Su Fang wanted to ask for something. This wasn't strange. The illusory fire cloud was a supreme fire divine ability. Such a high-level divine ability might not even be exchanged for a king-grade divine artifact. Now that the illusory fire cloud was in Su Fang's hands, how could he give it away for free? Who knew, after Su Fang sent a wisp of his primordial spirit, he waited for a moment before a young man hurried into the palace. It was Zhu Yan. He cupped his fists respectfully at Su Fang and said, "Greetings, master." The Zhu clan patriarch sensed Zhu Yan's aura and was surprised. This boy is actually from my Zhu clan. He doesn't come from the myriad worlds, but has the aura of a great world. Are there still descendants of the Zhu clan in the Great World? Su Fang briefly told the Zhu clan about the ancient battlefield of immortals and demons, then said to the Zhu clan patriarch, "This registered disciple of mine has cultivated the illusory fire cloud. The reason I brought him to the myriad worlds is to let him enter the fire god Zhu clan. If you don't mind, please accept him. The illusory fire cloud will naturally return to the fire god Zhu clan." The Zhu clan patriarch was overjoyed and agreed. Su Fang then said solemnly, "Although Zhu Yan is my registered disciple, he has followed me for many years and has cultivated some of my techniques. Please treat him well, Patriarch." The Zhu clan patriarch looked at Zhu Yan carefully and his eyes showed joy. He nodded and said, "Little friend Su Fang, don't worry. Since he is your registered disciple, I won't treat him badly. Moreover, this boy is a good seedling. I haven't had enough time to cultivate him. How can I treat him badly?" Although Zhu Yan was reluctant to leave Su Fang's side, he understood that Su Fang was thinking about his future. He kowtowed to Su Fang 3 times respectfully and then followed the Zhu clan patriarch out of the 9 realms of Green Dome. Although the Zhu clan patriarch did not get Su Fang's promise, he unexpectedly obtained the illusory fire cloud. Mo Tiangong had returned the favor and was naturally in a good mood. Su Fang thought for a while and said, "Master Mo, I have a request." Then Su Fang took out the Thousand Shapes Dharma. Ever since Su Fang found all the fragments of the Thousand Shapes Dharma in the ancient battlefield of immortals and demons in the macro world, he had been asking the undead ruler to repair it. However, his skill in weapon forging was considered a top weapon forging master in the macro world, but it was nothing in the myriad world. After all, forging divine weapons and Tao weapons were 2 completely different things. The undead ruler's skill in weapon forging was not enough to repair the Thousand Shapes Dharma. In the past, Su Fang was weak and did not dare to take out the Thousand Shapes Dharma to find someone to repair it. Now, he no longer had any scruples. Tao weapon? Mo Tiangong looked indifferent. In the eyes of a top weapon forging master like him, a Tao weapon was like a toy in the hands of a child. Why would he care about it? However, when he sensed it carefully, Mo Tiangong raised his eyebrows and grabbed the Thousand Shapes Dharma in his hand. He sent his consciousness into the Thousand Shapes Dharma. After a long time, Mo Tiangong looked shocked. There is such an extraordinary Dao weapon. Extraordinary, very extraordinary. Su Fang slowly explained the origin of the thousand shapes Dharma to Mo Tiangong. Mo Tiangong was amazed again. Without waiting for Su Fang to raise his request, Mo Tiangong said without any trace of politeness, "Su Fang, let me study this Dao item for a few days. It's only for repairing, so it won't have much use. I will help you raise the quality of this Dao item to divine artifact. TSK. If I can really succeed, such an extraordinary treasure will be born in my hands. Just thinking about it makes me extremely excited." Su Fang said, "Thank you very much, Senior." Mo Tiangong waved his hand. "You have helped me a little. If not for you, I would not have been able to improve on the great Dao of weapon forging." Su Fang thought for a while, and took out a jade slip. "This is the experience of a great weapon forging master from the outside world, as well as the great Dao of weapon forging. Master, please accept it. Perhaps you will be able to learn something useful from it." Emperor Tianbao's great Dao of weapon forging played a huge role in Su Fang's cultivation of the inner world. Otherwise, Su Fang's inner world would not have reached its current level even if he cultivated the 9 changes of the 9 suns. However, Su Fang's main focus was on cultivation. He could not divert his attention to weapon forging. Emperor Tianbao's great Dao of weapon forging would be buried in his hands. Mo Tiangong was a top weapon forging master. Giving Emperor Tianbao's great Dao of weapon forging to him would not bury Emperor Tianbao's efforts. A great weapon forging master from the outside world? Mo Tiangong did not take the jade slip to heart. The 3 masters chuckled when they saw this. What kind of joke was this? A top weapon forging master from the outside world was going to comprehend the experience of a great weapon forging master from the outside world? It was like asking a god to comprehend the cultivation of a mortal. It was truly laughable. Su Fang said, "Master, why don't you take a look? Perhaps you will gain something." "There's no harm in taking a look." Mo Tiangong smiled. After injecting his magic power, the jade slip slowly melted. The information within was sensed by Mo Tiangong's origin spirit. Mo Tiangong's face was full of smiles. As he read, his smile gradually froze and became extremely serious. In the end, his face was filled with shock and surprise. As a result, Mo Tiangong seemed to have entered a meditative state. He forgot everything about the outside world. Su Fang waved his hand at the 3 masters. Then, he cast a formation to isolate the surroundings so as not to disturb others. About 3 months later, Mo Tiangong exhaled deeply. He exclaimed, "Such a great weapon forging master! I am far inferior to him. If this person was born in the outside world, he would definitely be the supreme master of weapon forging. A frog at the bottom of a well. Compared to this person, I am just a frog at the bottom of a well on the path of weapon forging." Mo Tiangong exclaimed repeatedly. Then, Mo Tiangong rolled out a ray of light from his palm, and flew it to Su Fang. "This is the natal divine weapon embryo that I have refined for you. Nourish it in your inner world. One day, it will become a destinable divine weapon. I am going to comprehend the great path of weapon forging in the jade slip. I will take my leave first." With that, Mo Tiangong left the palace directly. The 3 masters were stunned for a moment. Then, they chased after Mo Tiangong. "My natal divine weapon? After so long, my natal divine weapon has finally been refined successfully." Su Fang grabbed the ray of light in his hand. His heart was filled with anticipation. He took a closer look. Chapter 2164. Ever since he ascended and entered Kuan Su's divine realm, Xian Lingzi had been trying to make Su Fang a natal relic weapon. The 3rd master had made a natal relic weapon for Su Fang. Later, Mo Tiangong found out and took it back to remake it for Su Fang. After so many years, Mo Tiangong finally succeeded in making the natal relic weapon. Actually, it hadn't been that long. Mo Tiangong was a top-notch master refiner, so it was normal for him to spend millions of years refining a divine tool. In such a short time, Mo Tiangong had helped Su Fang make a natal relic weapon. It was clear that he had put in a lot of effort. Su Fang didn't lack weapons at the moment, but he was still full of expectations for Mo Tiangong's natal relic weapon. But when he saw the light in his palm, Su Fang was stunned. In the light there was a fist-sized, mercury-like object. It was between liquid and solid. This was an incomplete prototype of a magic weapon. One could faintly see natural marks in it, forming a pagoda-shaped heavenly Tao palace. It gave off a mysterious and vast aura. A pagoda-shaped natal relic weapon? I already have the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. Now I have a pagoda-shaped natal relic weapon. Su Fang was speechless. It seemed that he was still fated with pagoda-shaped treasures. When Mo Tiangong had offered to make a natal relic weapon for him, he hadn't said what kind of weapon he wanted. He didn't expect it to be a pagoda-shaped one. Let's see what's so special about this natal relic weapon. Su Fang sent his consciousness into the light. As soon as he touched the prototype of the pagoda, he felt a connection to his life. At the same time, a lot of information about the pagoda rushed into his mind. This pagoda had fused with Su Fang's essence blood, so it was like a part of his body. Naturally, Su Fang would feel this way. When Su Fang had a thorough understanding of the pagoda, he was both shocked and speechless. Mo Tiangong originally planned to use the primal chaos gold to refine Su Fang's natal artifact, but he didn't expect that in addition to the primal chaos gold, this pagoda artifact also contained wood, water, fire, earth, and lightning. Furthermore, it wasn't an ordinary spiritual item. Instead, it was a material that was born from the chaos and contained the fortune of heaven and earth when heaven and earth were created. The other supplementary materials were also extraordinary. Among them, the earth-type spiritual objects were fused with a piece of calamity earth formed after the fall of an emperor realm master. And it wasn't just the materials. Among these first-level fortune materials and various spiritual objects, in addition to containing the fortune of heaven and earth and chaotic qi, they also contained traces of the heavenly Tao that was born when heaven and earth were created. The difficulty of refining so many materials into a heaven and earth Tao palace was beyond Su Fang's imagination. It was obvious that Mo Tiangong had spent a lot of effort on Su Fang's natal artifact. This pagoda artifact was still in its embryonic form. It needed to be placed in Su Fang's inner world and constantly nourished with the yin and yang energy, blood qi, and primordial spirit of the world. Only then could it continue to grow and eventually become a natal artifact born from Su Fang's inner world. Su Fang could roughly estimate the abilities of this pagoda artifact from the marks in its embryonic form. This natal artifact had been tailor-made by Mo Tiangong according to Su Fang's inner world. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and lightning. These 6 natural forces were the foundation of heaven and earth. Therefore, Mo Tiangong had refined this natal artifact into a magic weapon with the divine power of the 6 natural forces. It was shockingly similar to the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. The ability of this pagoda artifact was that after it was fused with its owner, it could multiply the power of the heavenly Tao and absorb the natural spiritual qi of heaven and earth for its owner's cultivation. This would increase the speed of its owner's cultivation by countless times. At the same time, this pagoda-shaped natal artifact could also absorb the 6 natural forces of heaven and earth and add them to its owner's body. It could release the 6 natal divine powers and control the metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and lightning elements that formed the foundation of the heavenly Tao, thus controlling the heaven and earth around it. As for how powerful it was, Su Fang was still unable to estimate it. However, from the materials used to refine this natal artifact and the marks of the heavenly Tao that it contained, Su Fang could infer that once this natal artifact was born, its power would be heaven-defying. It would definitely surpass a royal-grade artifact. Moreover, it could continuously grow stronger as its owner's cultivation increased. This natal artifact could even eventually become a divine creation artifact with heaven-defying power. This pagoda-shaped natal artifact is indeed extraordinary, but I already have the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. Flying swords were the most common type of artifact. Artifacts such as cauldrons, pagodas, mirrors, and flags were also not uncommon. Mo Tiangong had refined a pagoda artifact based on the great Tao that Su Fang cultivated. This was not strange. However, Su Fang already had the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda, a natal artifact. Now there was another similar natal artifact. Not only was its shape similar, but its powers were also very similar. Wouldn't it be redundant? Suddenly an idea flashed through Su Fang's mind. Why can't I fuse the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda with this incomplete pagoda to become a natal artifact? Su Fang was inexplicably excited by his own idea. A natal artifact focused on the compatibility of the great Tao, while the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda focused on the fusion of the physical body and the soul. Su Fang had been trying to improve the quality of the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. However, the starting point of the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda was too low. It was only a Tao artifact. Although the speed of improvement was not slow, it could not keep up with the speed of improvement in Su Fang's strength. If the two were fused, they would complement each other. Naturally, their power would be even more astonishing. The process of birth would also be greatly shortened. What moved Su Fang the most was that he could upgrade the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda to a divine creation artifact. This idea made his heart tremble uncontrollably, and he could not help but want to put it into practice. After all, the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda was his natal artifact that had accompanied him since the small world. If he could upgrade it to a divine creation artifact, it would naturally be something worth doing. If it were anyone else, they would at most think about it. It would be difficult for them to turn this idea into reality. Fusing two artifacts into one was even more difficult than refining two artifacts. However, Su Fang was different. These two artifacts are not only similar, but they are also my natal artifact. They are like two drops of essence blood. Naturally, it would be much easier to fuse them. Moreover, I have the purple Qi Dharma spirit. Moreover, I have comprehended the great Tao of refining of the heavenly treasure emperor. I have cultivated my divine body as a treasure. In terms of refining, even Mo Tiangong cannot compare to me. If I put the two natal artifacts in my inner world, the chances of success are very high. Su Fang made up his mind. However, fusing two natal artifacts was a major matter. It could not be done carelessly. He needed to repeatedly ponder and plan thoroughly before he could do it. Sheng Wuji's treatment of Qingyu and Xu Yunkong's injuries was not something that could be completed in a day or two. Therefore, Su Fang sat cross-legged outside the palace where Sheng Wuji was treating his injuries. He closed his eyes and displayed the mysterious solution of the heavenly divination to deduce and verify the fusion of the two natal artifacts. Then, he used the divine divination wall to demonstrate the idea in his mind again and again with the help of the divine divination wall's ability. Unknowingly, 30 years had passed. Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes and raised the corners of his mouth, revealing a joyful and confident smile. After repeated deductions, he finally found the best way to fuse the two natal artifacts into one. He placed the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda and the prototype of the pagoda into his inner world. Then, while fusing the pagoda with the divine artifact, he used various spiritual items to let the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda absorb and further improve its quality. His plan was very simple. First, he would fuse the natal artifacts and further improve the quality of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Then, at the moment when he stepped into a higher realm from the hierarch realm, he would let the two treasures go through the tribulation with him and fuse them with the help of the heavenly Tao. That was not the end. After the fusion, it still needed to be nourished in the inner world and absorb the power of creation in the inner world to further fuse with Su Fang's power. This plan was the most feasible plan that Su Fang had developed through countless deductions and demonstrations using the mysterious solution of the heavenly divination wall and the divine divination wall. First, I will fuse the pagoda with the pagoda to further improve the quality of the Xianhuang. Anyway, I don't lack any divine artifacts now. I'm not in a hurry to use the natal artifact. Su Fang was very much looking forward to what kind of terrifying power the two natal artifacts would have after they fused. After another 3 years, Sheng Wuji finally finished healing Qingyu and Shu Yunkong's injuries. Sheng Wuji had used all his strength this time. Not only did he use the supreme divine ability of the Life Great Tao to completely heal Qingyu and Shu Yunkong's injuries, but they also gained great benefit. After fusing with so much life blood qi and chaos qi, Qingyu was now at the peak of his breakthrough. Shu Yunkong's old injuries had been completely healed. At this time, he looked like he was only in his 40s. This was a sign of his boundless life force. Su Fang remembered Sheng Wuji's kindness in his heart. If there was a chance in the future, he would definitely repay this favor. Su Fang, I'm going out to gain experience and look for an opportunity to break through. Qingyu was in high spirits and couldn't wait to break through. Su Fang thought for a while and said, Brother Qingyu, since you want to go out to gain experience, why don't you make a trip back to the outer world? Sister Bai and the others have gone to the outer world, and there has been no news from them so far. I'm a little worried. It's a good time to go back. I haven't seen so many old brothers in a long time. After I go back, I'll show them how powerful I am now. Qingyu smiled proudly and then impatiently left the 9 domains of the azure dome sky and went straight to the transformation Supreme Tao in the cloudy divine realm. Seeing that Shu Yunkong had completely recovered, Su Fang was very happy. Next, he needed to get in touch with Shu Wanjun. Chapter 2165. Law's whereabouts were also unknown. Su Fang had sent out many experts to search for Law's whereabouts, but they were still unable to find him. However, the Azura Divine clan had not given up on searching for him. Back at the palace, Su Fang took out the Origin Sacred Mirror and released his Yang Qi into the depths of the Origin Sacred Mirror. After a long time, Shu Wanjun's cold voice rolled out from the mirror along with the cold qi. Ever since I obtained the chaos qi from you last time, I have been cultivating all these years. I just succeeded in breaking through to a higher realm a few days ago. This breakthrough was much more difficult than I expected, so the time taken was also beyond my expectations. I haven't contacted you yet. Why are you looking for me this time? Senior sister has succeeded in breaking through? Su Fang couldn't help but feel happy for Shu Wanjun. He then told her about his worries. So you already know about the Advent Divine Palace. That's good, I don't have to explain it to you in the future. Shu Wanjun said faintly. What kind of miracle is the Advent Divine Palace? The Advent Divine Palace is more mysterious and unfathomable than what the outside world has said. When I stabilize my newly promoted realm, I will naturally guide your primordial spirit here. At that time, you will understand everything at a glance. Su Fang was about to enter the Yuan Tiangong to cultivate, as well as the Yuan Tiangong using the Advent Divine Palace as a training ground. It seems that the catastrophe brought about by the changes of heaven and earth is more serious than expected. All the supreme existences can't sit still. If the catastrophe erupts, even the laws of heaven will be completely changed. I'm afraid that even the Yuan Tiangong will not be the last refuge. Shu Wanjun said worriedly. Su Fang's heart suddenly sank. It's good that you can enter the Yuan Tiangong. This is the fastest way for you to reach the peak. However, this doesn't mean that your future will be smooth sailing. The Yuan Tiangong is just a platform for you. How high you can reach in the end depends entirely on your own effort. Thank you for your reminder, senior sister. Once I've stabilized myself, I'll contact you directly. If we work together to activate the Origin Sacred Mirror, there's a high chance that we'll be able to escape. You don't have to worry about me. At this point, Shu Wanjin exhorted, remember, never enter the Advent Palace. The dangers inside are far beyond what the outside world can imagine. If I didn't have the Origin Sacred Mirror, I would have died long ago. Su Fang then asked about Zhu Fengtian of the fire god Zhu clan and the illusory fire cloud. That's right. The illusory fire cloud came from Zhu Fengtian. Back when I was being chased by the Ji people, it was all thanks to his help that I managed to escape to the outskirts of the Advent Palace. His cultivation aptitude is far better than mine. The illusory fire cloud is his own creation. He was only at the peak of the Divine Emperor realm at that time. Later on, we entered the Advent Divine Palace together. I was running for my life while he was searching for the secrets of the Advent Divine Palace. In the end, he was severely injured and before he died, he passed the illusory fire cloud to me, hoping that I could bring this supreme fire element skill out of the Advent Divine Palace. You returning the illusory fire cloud to the fire god Zhu clan can be considered as resolving one of my worries. Shu Wanjin's cold voice carried a trace of sadness. It was obvious that her relationship with Zhu Fengtian was not ordinary. Senior sister, there's one more thing. Ji Wuji was killed by Unidao Emperor. I'm afraid it will be difficult to avenge senior sister. Ji Wuji is dead. Shu Wanjin's tone suddenly turned cold. Forget it. Since he's dead, then this debt will be on the Ji people. When I come out of the Advent Divine Palace, one day I will definitely exterminate the Ji people. After that, Shu Wanjin's voice gradually drifted away from the mirror along with the extremely cold air and finally disappeared completely. Knowing that Shu Wanjin was fine, Su Fang heaved a sigh of relief. Next, Su Fang started to settle down and cultivate. Now that he didn't lack high-grade resources, he extorted a huge sum of money from the Golden Rainbow Monarch. The reason was that the Golden Rainbow Monarch tricked him and Goddess Luo in the illusory destruction heart mirror. The Golden Rainbow Monarch was now a little wary of Su Fang and had no choice but to take out a large sum of black-grade spiritual items. These were the highest-grade spiritual items that he could take out from his treasury. The rest were the cultivation techniques, superpowers, and divine weapons that he had stolen in the past. Su Fang had no use for them now, so naturally, he wouldn't have any ideas about these treasures. On top of that, the Blue Dome Domain Lord also sent over a large sum of resources as a deposit for entering the Yuan Tiangong. With these treasures and the Chaos Essence Pearl that was refined from Ji Feng by the Origin Sacred Mirror, Su Fang would be able to cultivate to the peak of the 5th heaven of the Hierarch realm and then break through to the 6th heaven. In the palace, Su Fang used the yin-yang change to madly devour all kinds of spiritual items and turn them into chaotic qi. Qi. After about 500 years, a shocking amount of tribulation qi gushed out from Su Fang's body. The moment the tribulation qi shot out from his body, it suddenly turned into flames and burned fiercely in the depths of the palace's array. He was about to break through so soon. Su Fang was overjoyed and stopped cultivating. Instead, he used the illusory fire cloud and combined it with the tribulation fire to sweep out, forming a prairie fire. As the tribulation fire burned crazily, a strange kind of advancement began to take place. The familiar impurities began to flow out and his divine body began to shatter and transform. This kind of transformation was very painful, but Su Fang's expression was surprisingly calm. At this moment, the scenes in the Pan-Hung divine world kept flashing in his mind, especially the wave of resurrected experts that engulfed the divine nation. That scene made Su Fang despair, but at the same time, It gave birth to a sense of determination. Strength, powerful strength. The tribulation fire gradually disappeared. Su Fang's divine body, divine dwellings, and divine apertures began to condense a heavenly Tao mark. His body emitted 6 layers of peaceful and tranquil divine light. He used his sensing ability to sense the interior of his divine body. He saw 6 heavenly marks in his divine dwellings. His physical body, flesh, and divine apertures all had 6 heavenly marks. Q8 ZBSB. His divine dwellings and divine apertures became deeper, and his yang spirit also became more solid and lifelike, like a real Su Fang. The sea of dermic powers surged, surging with mysterious yin and yang dermic powers. At this moment, Su Fang felt that he was an extremely powerful divine artifact. The speed at which the world tree absorbed and released the power of the yin and yang world also increased by a lot. It merged perfectly with the yin-yang Tao wheel formed by the 68 yang meridians, causing the energy in Su Fang's body to be like the cycle of heaven and earth, endless and endless. A 6th heaven divine venerable. Such an advancement speed is amazing. It's not inferior to those geniuses from the ancient divine clans. However, this is far from enough. Su Fang's eyes flashed with determination and perseverance. He continued to use the yin-yang transformation, swallowing pills and spiritual items to replenish the huge consumption caused by the advancement. Time flew by and another 300 years passed. Su Fang was forced to stop cultivating. This was because there were guests that he had to meet this time. The Divine Phoenix ancient clan had come. Xuanxin could achieve what he had today thanks to the Divine Phoenix ancient clan's nurturing. However, Su Fang did not have a good impression of the Divine Phoenix ancient clan because of Feng Mingtian. Since the end of the 6th Gate of Heaven test, Su Fang had not contacted Xuanxin. He did not expect the Divine Phoenix ancient clan to take the initiative to visit this time. This surprised Su Fang, and he kept guessing their intentions. This time, the Divine Phoenix ancient clan had sent many higher-ups. The leader was a red-haired old man who exuded a violent but extremely pure flame aura. He was the clan leader of the Divine Phoenix ancient clan. This old man's strength was extremely shocking. He was at the same level as Zhang Yanhai, and was even more powerful than Xing Wuji and Mo Tiangong. In addition, there were 3 powerhouses whose cultivation levels were similar to Xing Wuji's. One of them was a middle-aged woman with an extremely cold aura. She was like an iceberg that would never melt. Clearly, she belonged to another branch of the Divine Phoenix ancient clan, the Ice Phoenix clan. Feng Mingtian was also among them. Although Su Fang had never seen his original body, he had fought with his primordial spirit once. He was definitely familiar with his aura. At this time, he was playing the role of a follower. Su Fang noticed that Feng Mingtian's gaze towards him was filled with hatred, pride, and schadenfreude. Su Fang sneered in his heart, and a murderous intent surged. Feng Mingtian, you're just a clown in my eyes. If I have the chance, I will definitely kill you and avenge Fairy Frozen Dream. What made Su Fang feel strange was that he did not see Xuanxin. The Divine Phoenix ancient clan's intentions were clearly not good. Su Fang, do you know your crime? After sitting down in the palace and remaining silent for a while, the red-haired elder suddenly shouted. It was like a violent volcano had suddenly erupted, forming a terrifying pressure that enveloped Su Fang. Feeling as if the whole world was about to be incinerated, Su Fang hurriedly used the 9 Suns' divine fire. At the same time, the defensive power of the ancestral dragon armor burst out, resisting the red-haired elder's pressure. Su Fang's body trembled as if he was being roasted in a volcano. However, he raised his head and said, I don't know what crime I have committed. Moreover, even if I have committed a heinous crime, it seems that the Divine Phoenix ancient clan should not pursue my crime. The fact that he could resist the pressure of the Divine Phoenix ancient clan's leader surprised all the powerhouses of the Divine Phoenix ancient clan. The red-haired elder snorted and said, Ice Phoenix Xuanxin is a peerless genius that our clan has painstakingly cultivated. However, you have blasphemed against her in public and tarnished our clan's reputation. You are a sinner of our clan. Everyone in the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan can kill you. Su Fang said, Lord Clan Leader, I'm afraid that you have made a mistake. Before Xuanxin joined the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan, she was already Su Fang's cultivation partner. Is any intimate action between me and my cultivation partner a sin? The red-haired elder was speechless. He could not find the words to refute Su Fang's words. Xuanxin had a cultivation partner in the great world. When Feng Wushang had brought Xuanxin to the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan through the Fengyi door, the higher-ups of the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan had already known that Xuanxin possessed the true body of the Ice Phoenix and was highly valued by the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan. However, at that time, who would care about a low-level existence in the great world? Now, how could the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan ignore Su Fang? Chapter 2166. There was a moment of silence. Good. You are indeed Xuanxin's cultivation partner. You are indeed extraordinary. The red-haired elder laughed heartily, and the tense atmosphere disappeared. Su Fang was stunned. He did not know why the powerful cultivators of the Divine Phoenix Clan had come. The Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan did not come here to denounce them. Su Fang did not have any real identity, but the Divine Phoenix Clan knew very well that a peerless genius who had ascended from this great world would have limitless achievements. The Divine Phoenix Clan naturally wanted to recruit such a genius. The clan leader's threat was just to show Su Fang who was in charge. However, Su Fang did not buy it, so they had to change their strategy. The red-haired elder continued, I will get straight to the point. Su Fang, on behalf of the Divine Phoenix Clan, I would like to invite you to join our clan. Not only will you be able to be a couple with Xuanxin, but you will also be fully trained. You don't have to worry about the Yin tribe or the Sanskrit. The Divine Phoenix Clan will protect you. The Divine Phoenix Clan wants to recruit Su Fang. Feng Mingtian clearly did not know the purpose of the Divine Phoenix Clan's visit. His face darkened, and his eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. However, he was just an insignificant person now. He did not even dare to fart, let alone change the decision of the clan leader. Join the Divine Phoenix Clan? Su Fang finally understood the Divine Phoenix Clan's intention. They wanted him to marry into their clan. After thinking for a while, Su Fang said, I am very sorry. Su Fang has always been free and undisciplined. We will not join any forces. Being with Xuanxin was naturally Su Fang's dream. However, joining the Divine Phoenix Clan meant losing his freedom and being controlled by others. This was not something Su Fang wanted. The red-haired elder smiled. Why? Do you think the Divine Phoenix Clan is too small for you? Or do you not want to be with Xuanxin? Su Fang cupped his fists and said, Su Fang does not dare to dislike the Divine Phoenix Clan. I will not be separated from Xuanxin either. I just do not want to join any forces. The red-haired elder snorted and said, We wanted you to join the Divine Phoenix Clan and marry Xuanxin at the same time. This is a win-win situation. Since you are not willing, the Divine Phoenix Clan will not force you. Su Fang had not expected the clan leader of the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan to give up so easily. Before the test to enter the palace, the Divine Phoenix Clan and Imperial people discussed the marriage of Phoenix Xuanxin and Xuanxin's marriage. Who would have thought that the red-haired old man would suddenly change the topic of discussion, and his tone was filled with threat. Su Fang's expression changed instantly. Xuanxin and Di Yuan are united by marriage. The red-haired elder's eyes were filled with pride as he said, Since you and Huang Xuanxin were Taoist companions in the great world, I could not bear to separate the two of you. Hence, I decided to recruit you into the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan. Since you have no intention to join the Divine Phoenix Clan, you have abandoned Phoenix Xuanxin. I can only make the decision to marry Xuanxin to Xuanxin. Su Fang shouted coldly, Xuanxin is my cultivation partner. Xuanxin has her freedom. How can the Divine Phoenix clan marry her? Xuanxin and you becoming cultivation partners is a matter of the outside world. If she joins the Divine Phoenix clan, she will no longer be Xuanxin. She will be Phoenix Xuanxin. Everything about her belongs to the Divine Phoenix clan. Why can't I let her marry someone else? Su Fang, although you are on the Chaos Golden Roll and have Emperor Sangqiu as your protector, and you shocked everyone in the palace entrance test, you are still a nobody. So what? Do you think you can interfere with our clan's affairs? Even Emperor Sangqiu does not have the right to interfere. Moreover, this involves the imperial people. Choose for yourself. Join the Divine Phoenix clan or watch Phoenix Xuanxin become Xuanxin's cultivation partner. The red-haired elder shouted arrogantly. He was very domineering. The other Divine Phoenix clan cultivators, except for the middle-aged woman, all sneered proudly. Feng Mingtian, who was standing at the back, almost laughed out loud. He looked at Su Fang with eyes that were filled with incomparable joy. Su Fang clenched his fists. His eyes were burning with anger, humiliation, anger. Finally, it turned into cold killing intent. He looked coldly at the red-haired elder. If the Divine Phoenix clan dares to do this, I will make them pay a heavy price. A Divine Phoenix clan cultivator shook his head. The Divine Phoenix clan can stand tall in the ancient god world. How can we be threatened by you? How shameless! In the Great World, there was once the top sect called the Tianming Haotsong sect. It was said to be in charge of the Haotsong sect. At that time, I was just a lowly immortal who had ascended. The Tianming Haotsong sect treated me like an ant. They bullied me and tried to kill me. I swear that I will destroy their sect. Now, the Tianming Haotsong sect has disappeared in the long river of history. The Great World is only left with the power that I built. Su Fang's voice echoed in the palace. The red-haired elder and the other Divine Phoenix clan cultivators sneered. Not to mention the overlords of the Great Worlds, even the overlords of the myriad worlds were nothing in the eyes of the Divine Phoenix ancient clan. Su Fang continued. When I ascended to the Divine World, the Ji people bullied me and tried to kill me. In the end, I defeated the Ji people alone and killed the Ji people's experts, Ji Feng and Ji Feng. I caused a plague among the Ji people and caused countless casualties. The red-haired elder's expression changed slightly. Only then did he realize that the genius from the Great World in front of him was not a pushover. He was a cruel and merciless person. The Ji people were one of the ancient divine clans that ranked in the top 1,000 in the universe. They had been severely injured by him. If Su Fang really became a peerless powerhouse one day, given his character, it would definitely be a huge disaster for the Divine Phoenix ancient clan. The red-haired elder raised his eyebrows. He felt that using Xuanxin to threaten Su Fang was not a good idea. It has been less than 200,000 years since I ascended to the Great World, but I can already shake the Ji people. Can the Divine Phoenix clan really be so sure that Su Fang will not be able to shake the Divine Phoenix clan in the future? Don't forget that as long as I pass the last test to enter the palace, I will be able to enter the Yuan Tiangong Heavenly Realm to cultivate. With the resources provided by the Yuan Tiangong Heavenly Realm and my cultivation speed, who can say for sure that I will not become a king god or a sovereign in the future? When that time comes, let's see how the Divine Phoenix clan will deal with it. The Divine Phoenix clan has nurtured Xuanxin, and I, Su Fang, will repay you tenfold in the future. If you become my sworn enemy now, don't blame me for returning the favor 100-fold. Su Fang's eyes regained the domineering aura he had in the Great World. His domineering voice shocked the Divine Phoenix clan cultivators into silence. How can the Divine Phoenix clan be threatened by a lowly ant like you? Feng Mingtian could not help but jump out and scold Su Fang loudly. You must be Feng Mingtian, right? A despicable person like you has been training in the great world. I haven't settled the old scores with you yet. How dare you jump out and make a fuss in front of me? Su Fang looked at Feng Mingtian, his deep eyes flashing with a sharp and cold murderous intent. Feng Mingtian felt as if his entire body had been frozen. He could not help but tremble as a chill ran down his spine. Fine, I will temporarily postpone the marriage between Xuanxin and Diyuan. I will also give you some time to think about it. Let's go. The red-haired old man said majestically as he led the Divine Phoenix clan away in embarrassment. Divine Phoenix clan, I, Su Fang, will remember today's humiliation. If you really dare to do this, I, Su Fang, swear that I will remove your Divine Phoenix clan from the universe. Su Fang's heart was filled with murderous intent, but at the same time, he was also filled with humiliation and the sorrow of being a weakling. The Golden Rainbow King spoke from the depths of his body. Now you understand what kind of character those ancient god clans are, right? Although you are valued by a sovereign, that is not your own strength. Otherwise, how could the Divine Phoenix clan dare to be so arrogant? If you were a true powerhouse, why would you need to threaten them with empty words? That's right. What's the use of just being a genius? Strength, I must continue to become a powerhouse. I must become a powerhouse that those ancient god clans and great forces cannot help but tremble at the mention of my name. The thought of becoming stronger became more and more intense in Su Fang's heart, turning into a firm belief. Next, Su Fang took out the Suzaku mirror and tried to contact Xuanxin. However, the thought he released was like a stone thrown into the sea. Su Fang guessed that Xuanxin must have been restricted at this time. He could not help but worry for her, but he could not think of any way. The powerlessness of a weakling made him angry again. With this anger, Su Fang began to wantonly devour pills, spiritual objects, and resources, and began to cultivate crazily. The Golden Rainbow King was no longer stingy and generously took out resources for Su Fang to cultivate. When Su Fang's subordinates learned that their master had been humiliated like this, they were all furious and began to cultivate crazily. The Divine Phoenix clan's encampment. Inside an ice palace, Xuanxin sat cross-legged in the array formation dojo in the depths of the ice palace. The middle-aged woman with an extremely cold aura shuttled through the array formation. Xuanxin, although I strongly oppose the actions of the upper echelons of the clan, I am powerless to change anything. You should think carefully. Now you only have two choices. You can either persuade Su Fang to join our clan, or you can marry Diyuan. Xuanxin was silent for a long time. Then, he said coldly, sacrificing Su Fang's freedom. Even if he agrees, I will not let him do so. The middle-aged woman sighed faintly. Then, the only choice left is to marry Diyuan. Xuanxin smiled faintly. That may not be the case. I believe that Su Fang will definitely be able to find a third choice. It is impossible for one person to fight against our clan. In my opinion, in the end, never mind. We can only delay it for now. I hope that you and Su Fang will be able to amaze everyone in the test of the seventh heaven. In this way, the upper echelons of the clan will be somewhat afraid. Chapter 2167. There were 3 days left before the seventh gate of heaven test. More than 10,000 geniuses from the various divine worlds, forces, and god tribes were rushing towards the illusory palace. The seventh gate of heaven test was the last and most important test in the Yuan Tiangong test. Many geniuses were filled with confidence. They were nervous, excited, and looking forward to it. Su Fang flew in front, accompanied by the Blue Dome Domain Lord, Xu Yunkong, and Xianlingzi. At this moment, Su Fang was the center of attention. Su Fang's dazzling performance in the previous 6 heavens had long since become the focus of attention of the 8 forces. His various experiences in the past had also been clearly inquired about. A cultivator who had ascended from a macro world was able to shine so brightly among the most outstanding geniuses in the universe. How could he not attract attention? Humph, kid. Let's see if you can still shine in the last test. The senior members of the Een tribe were all watching Su Fong. Sanskrit, the divine phoenix ancient clan, and the Ji people who had not left were all watching Su Fong. When Su Fong sensed the murderous intent in everyone's eyes, he only saw calmness. Only when he looked at the divine phoenix ancient clan did he reveal a cold look. Su Fong flew to the square in front of the seventh gate of heaven. Most of the geniuses had already arrived at the square formed by the array and were sitting cross-legged. Su Fong's arrival caused quite a stir. The more than 3,000 geniuses who had fought alongside Su Fong in the Pan-Heng divine world in the sixth gate of heaven all nodded to Su Fong respectfully. Some of them were grateful. Fan Shu, Een Buji, some geniuses from the ancient god world whom Su Fong still did not know, and the descendants of the ancient divine clans and powerful forces in the divine world had completely different expressions. Su Fong, I heard that something happened to Xuanxin? Goddess Luo's primordial spirit's voice was transmitted. Goddess Luo was still extremely mysterious. After the sixth heaven gate test ended, she had vanished without a trace. Now that she had suddenly appeared, even Su Fong found it hard to grasp. As for Goddess Luo's background, she did not mention it, and Su Fong did not ask. Everyone had their own secrets, and Su Fong would not take the initiative to pry. This time, Goddess Luo did not wear a cloak, revealing her beautiful face. Her eyes were pitch black and bright. Her graceful figure and ethereal temperament attracted the attention of countless geniuses. The way the crowd looked at Goddess Luo made Su Fong very uncomfortable. He raised his eyebrows and replied, "Why aren't you covering your face? Su Fong, you're really domineering. Can't other men look at me a few more times? In my eyes, other than you, the other men are just a bunch of mediocre people, including Di Yuan. What are you worried about?" Su Fong chuckled. Goddess Luo's words were very effective on him. "Is everything all right with Xuanxin?" "It's fine. It's just that the divine phoenix ancient clan is a little snobbish." Goddess Luo said, "Strive to be first in the palace test and show them. First? I don't dare to have too much hope. I'll be satisfied if I can get into the top 10. Su Fong's original goal was to get into the top 500. He did not expect that the Yuan Tiangong's test method was extremely advantageous to Su Fong. That was how he managed to get into second place. Of course, Su Fong had his own reasons. He had advantages that the other geniuses did not have. From a minor world to a large world, and then to the myriad of worlds, he'd experienced countless difficulties and dangers, and he'd surmounted the peak time and time again. At the same time that he possessed formidable strength, he possessed supreme karmic luck, and a tenacious and strong Tao heart as well. As for those disciples from the ancient divine world and the divine world, which one of them had his experience? Even a genius of humble birth like Sun Qi could not possibly have the same experience as Su Fong. In addition, the 9 Suns' 9 transformations and other supreme techniques were the key to Su Fong being able to stand out. He might not have such good luck in the last test of the Gate of Heaven. Su Fong was not confident that he could even get into the top 10, let alone get first place. If he wanted to get first place, it would be very difficult to get past Di Yuan. Di Yuan, who was born in the supreme imperial people, was too strong. Q8ZBSB. No matter what the test of the 7th gate of heaven is, I have to do my best. The higher my ranking, the more attention I will receive from the venerable sovereigns, and the better the cultivation resources I will get in the future. More importantly, Xuanxin. The higher my final score in the palace test, the more the divine phoenix ancient clan will not dare to act rashly against Xuanxin. Su Fong's eyes flashed with determination. At this time, Xuanxin also came to the square. Her expression was cold, and she had a cold, holy, and inviolable temperament. Xuanxin, how have you been all these years? Su Fang hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Xuanxin. Xuanxin's frozen eyes melted instantly. I've been quiet in the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan's territory, but I haven't been bullied. I'm sorry. Because of me, you have suffered. Su Fang felt very guilty. At the same time, a sense of humiliation welled up in his heart. Su Fang, you have done well. If it weren't for you, my fate would have been controlled by the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan, and I would have become a tool for them to form an alliance with the Imperial people. Xuanxin, believe me, it won't be long before the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan begs me to become your cultivation partner and give you a large dowry. I've been waiting for this day. The marriage ceremony in the Great World was actually a show for others. I hope it can be real again. Xuanxin's face flushed red. Su Fang glanced at Goddess Luo. Xuanxin snorted. Are you fantasizing about taking me and Goddess Luo in at the same time and then serving you together? Cough, 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 Su Fang coughed repeatedly. Of course, he had such thoughts. However, it seemed like this idea would never be realized. They waited in the square for 3 days. Only Dao Emperor's figure appeared from the void. Although he didn't deliberately release his aura, all the geniuses felt an invisible pressure. All of them were solemn and hurriedly got up. The square suddenly became silent. The test of the 7th gate of heaven affects the treatment of those who enter the Yuan Tiangong in the future. Therefore, it is very important. I will personally preside over it. Only Dao Emperor said majestically. All the geniuses felt heavy pressure, and the atmosphere suddenly became tense. All of you, follow me. Only Dao Emperor released his divine aura and enveloped all the geniuses. Then, he led them through the 7th gate of heaven. The scene in front of them instantly changed. It was as if they had entered an illusion from the real world. The geniuses were currently standing on a huge floating object. Tens of thousands of feet in front of the object stood a huge palace. It looked exactly the same as the illusion of the palace they saw from the outside. However, it wasn't an illusion, but a real existence. The palace was majestic. When the door was opened, an astonishing amount of pure spiritual chi of heaven and earth gushed out from it. There was even the aura of primal chaos. It was as if the door of the palace was connected to another world, the universe of the real world. Even if only Dao Emperor didn't say it, all the geniuses already knew that the door of the palace was the entrance to the Yuan Tiangong. The geniuses' hearts were beating rapidly. Their eyes lit up as if they could see the vast future through the door of the palace. You guys guessed it right. This palace is the entrance to the Yuan Tiangong from the real world. Only Dao Emperor's words confirmed the guesses of the geniuses. In order to cultivate geniuses like you, and at the same time, to leave a place of refuge for the human race, the Supreme Masters of the Universe joined forces to create the Yuan Tiangong. The Yuan Tiangong is not just a palace, but a world created to simulate the real world. Not only does it have a rare cultivation environment, but it also has benefits that you can't imagine. Almost all the Emperor Masters and thousands of powerful overbod Masters in the universe have their original bodies or clones to guide you in your cultivation. Every Emperor Master, ancient god clans, and great forces have taken out their treasured cultivation methods, ancient books, supreme divine abilities, various supreme treasures, spiritual items, and resources for you to cultivate. In addition, in the Yuan Tiangong, as well as in the universe, various training grounds have been opened for you to improve your combat ability. There are many other benefits, but I won't repeat them. Empyrean Unidao patiently explained the situation within Primordius' heavenly palace to the many geniuses present. The eyes of the geniuses became more and more heated. However, everything in the Yuan Tiangong is not so easy to enjoy. Only Dao Emperor suddenly changed the topic. You geniuses selected from the universe are destined to enter the Yuan Tiangong, but after entering the Yuan Tiangong, you will enjoy different kinds of treatment. You already know that the Yuan Tiangong is divided into the heaven, earth, black, and yellow realms. The cultivation environment, status, and resources in the heaven realm are vastly different from those in the yellow realm, which is the lowest level. The previous 6 gates of heaven tests are just the foundation. The most important test is the 7th gate of heaven test. Which realm you will end up in, the highest heaven realm or the lowest yellow realm, will be decided by this test. Now I will announce the rules of the 7th gate of heaven test. Only Tao Emperor's words made all the geniuses nervous, and at the same time, their fighting spirit soared. Only Tao Emperor said majestically, "The test of the 7th gate of heaven is actual combat." As expected, the geniuses whispered among themselves. They had already expected the test of the 7th gate of heaven test. After all, everything else was fake. Only actual combat could test the genius's true strength. Chapter 2168. You can use any technique. In other words, you can use any divine ability, including those of the evil Tao and the demon Tao. You can also use any divine artifact, provided that you can activate the power of these divine artifacts. Of course, you can also use elixirs, forbidden arts, and secret techniques to increase your strength. There are only 2 restrictions in the 7th heaven test. First, you can't use runes that you didn't create in battle. Secondly, you can't do it on purpose. The array space used in battle has the power to protect you and can save your life in times of danger. However, once you're protected by the array, you'll fail. Only Tao Emperor's words caused many geniuses to whisper among themselves. Some geniuses were extremely excited and full of fighting spirit, while others were frowning. The rules of the 7th heaven test seemed fair, but it was obviously unfair to those geniuses who came from lowly backgrounds. In terms of divine abilities, divine artifacts, and elixirs, how could these geniuses compare to those geniuses who came from noble backgrounds? However, which of the geniuses who could reach this step didn't have powerful divine abilities or divine artifacts? Although those geniuses who came from lowly backgrounds felt that it was unfair, they didn't express any dissatisfaction. It was already a great fortune for them to be given such an opportunity in the Yuan Tiangong. If they still felt that it was unfair in the Yuan Tiangong, they wouldn't be satisfied. Even the methods of the evil Tao and the evil Tao can be used? Su Fang raised his eyebrows, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. This meant that apart from the Chaos Origin Sacred Mirror, he could use all his other trump cards. Su Fang didn't even have to worry about the yin-yang transformation. When suppressing the seasonal plague in the Ji people, Su Fang used the yin-yang transformation. Not only the Ji people's experts, but even Emperor Sangqiu had witnessed it. Now that it was the crucial moment to fight for the opportunity to change their fates, Su Fang wouldn't hide anything. The specific rules are as follows. Listen carefully. Only Tao Emperor said majestically, and all the geniuses quieted down. First, all of you will enter an array space. More than 10,000 people will fight for the tokens of other geniuses within 10 days. The geniuses who snatch all 10 tokens will directly enter the top 100. If the number of people who obtained 10 tokens exceeded 100, it would be determined according to the results of the 6 gates of heaven test. If it's less than 100, the number of tokens snatched from the top 1,000 geniuses and the results of the 6 gates of heaven test will be made up. The top 10 will be selected from these 100 geniuses through actual combat and enter the Yuan Tiangong heavenly realm. As for the remaining 90 people, they will enter Primordius Heavenly Palace. If you manage to snatch 5 tokens, you'll be promoted to the top 1,000. If you don't have enough, you can increase or decrease your ranking according to the method mentioned above. And from these 1,000 geniuses, they would fight for the remaining 10 places to enter Yuan Tiangong. The other 990 people have entered the Yuan Tiangong mysterious realm. Snatch less than 5 tokens. Fight for 10 Yuan Tiangong profound realm spot. Everyone else will enter the yellow realm. Only Tao Emperor explained the rules of the seventh gate of heaven to the geniuses in detail. The geniuses pondered for a moment, each of them becoming nervous. They did not expect the final test to be so simple, yet so cruel. Only Tao Emperor asked, "Do you have any other questions?" Di Yuan suddenly asked, "Lord Tao Emperor, if the seventh gate of heaven test can directly decide everything, then wouldn't the sixth gate of heaven test be meaningless?" The other geniuses also had the same question, and they all looked at only Tao Emperor. "Good question." Only Tao Emperor nodded. "Whether it's talent, age, luck, etc., they are all prerequisites for strength. In the end, it still depends on actual combat. Therefore, the seventh gate of heaven test will directly decide which region the geniuses will be assigned to. The sixth gate of heaven test is of little use. However, the sixth gate of heaven test is not completely useless. It has another purpose. Your performance in the sixth gate of heaven test has been observed by the experts in Yuan Tiangong. Some of the geniuses with outstanding performances have already been valued by the expert. No matter which region you are assigned to, you will be valued by the expert. Some peerless experts will even directly take you as a disciple. In the future, you will have the opportunity to advance to a higher region to cultivate. At this point, only Tao Emperor glanced at Su Fang intentionally or unintentionally. The geniuses suddenly realized that the experts in Yuan Tiangong had put a lot of thought into the palace test. Swish, swish. The geniuses naturally understood that only Tao Emperor was referring to Su Fang. No matter how Su Fang ranked in the last gate of heaven test, he would be valued and favored by the expert. The eyes that looked at Su Fang were filled with envy and jealousy. "You've been in the limelight in the sixth gate of heaven test. Let's see how you're going to play tricks in the last gate of heaven test. So what if you're valued by the experts? In the last gate of heaven test, even if I can't kill you, I'll ruthlessly trample you under my feet. I'll let those experts who value you see what kind of trash you are." Fan Shu, Yin Buji, and the other geniuses who had deep grudges against Su Fang looked at Su Fang with murderous intent. In their opinion, Su Fang ranks second in the first gate of heaven test to the sixth gate of heaven test not because of his true strength, but because of luck. Especially in the sixth gate of heaven test, Su Fang couldn't use divine powers or divine artifacts in the Pan-Hung divine realm, which was why he was able to take advantage of the situation. How could he not show his true colors in the last gate of heaven test? As long as Su Fang was defeated, the experts who valued him would naturally not pay attention to a loser. "Su Fang, be careful. This battle is very disadvantageous for you. Be careful of Fan Shu and Yin Buji working together to deal with you." Xuanxin and Goddess Luo sent their nascent spirits to Su Fang at the same time. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. "It's fine if they don't come looking for me. If they come looking for me, they'll just give me another point." Many geniuses were also secretly discussing how to work together to get the tokens in the test. Fan Shu and Yin Buji contacted many geniuses from the ancient god world and the ancient god race to deal with Su Fang together. Get ready. The seventh gate of heaven test begins. Only Tao Emperor formed a hand seal, and an array covered the floating object. Sizzle! Sizzle! Not only did it block their vision, but it also extended the distance between them. The geniuses who were close a moment ago were now very far away. Even their positions had changed drastically. Su Fang used his great perfection vision to search for the other geniuses through the mist, but he could only see 100 miles away. He thought that it would be easy to get the 10 tokens, but now it seemed that it wasn't that simple. Just finding the target in 10 days wasn't an easy task. 10 days is too short. I can't waste time on finding the target. As a result, Su Fang didn't hesitate to use his great perfection vision and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to project his sensing ability. After a while, "Young Master Wentian? I didn't expect that my first token would be you." Su Fong raised his eyebrows and revealed a joyful expression. His body descended rapidly. After a dozen breaths, Su Fong saw young Master Wentian, who was searching for his target. Only when he was only 100 miles away from young Master Wentian did young Master Wentian notice Su Fong. Su Fong, I didn't expect that the first person I encountered would be you. I'm really lucky to be able to get a token so quickly. Water Dao, illusory cloud heaven and earth. Young Master Wentian's eyes flashed with a ruthless light, but he didn't dare to be careless. He quickly formed a hand seal and used the Water Dao divine ability that he had created after comprehending the Chaos Sea. The space in an area of 500 kilometers was instantly suffused with strands of mist condensed from the grand Dao laws of water, and an ethereal and blurry divine might covered the world, causing everything in the space to become illusory and unfathomable. Young Master Wentian originally had an even more powerful divine ability. After all, he had just comprehended the divine ability in the Chaos Sea and had just comprehended it. Its power was ordinary. However, the distance between the two of them was too close. Young Master Wentian was the fastest to use his self-created divine ability. With a thought, he used his divine ability. He was planning to use the illusory cloud heaven and earth to confuse Su Fong. Then, he would use his most powerful technique to defeat Su Fong. Boom! A flame divine might exploded from Su Fong's body. The domineering divine might immediately evaporated the surrounding water mist. Water countered fire. However, when fire was strong enough, it could counter water and evaporate water. Young Master Wentian's divine light changed instantly. He opened his mouth and spat out a sword light that was sparkling like water. It swept towards Su Fong like a wave and instantly engulfed Su Fong again. Who knew that at the next moment? Su Fong's voice came from behind him. I'm very sorry. Your token is mine. You should obediently go to the Yuan Tiangong yellow border. Young Master Wentian's heart sank into an ice cave. Time Great Dao Divine Ability. On the surface, he looked very arrogant. However, in his heart, he did not underestimate Su Fong at all. He had done his homework on Su Fong. Naturally, he knew that Su Fong had grasped the Time Great Dao Divine Ability. However, when he truly faced Su Fong, he realized that Su Fong's strength was far beyond his imagination. Boom! Boom! A flaming sword light struck young Master Wentian. The flames burned fiercely. Here's the token. Young Master Wentian knew that he could not escape the fate of being eliminated this time. He threw the token to Su Fong. At this moment, his heart was filled with regret. He had no grudges with Su Fong. It was mainly because of Yin Buji. If he had not been eliminated by Su Fong, he definitely had the strength to enter the top 1,000. Now, he had completely lost the qualification. It was too late to regret now. A divine might enveloped young Master Wentian, forming a protective barrier. It eliminated the power of Su Fong's phaseless fire cloud saber, and moved young Master Wentian out of the formation space. I still need 9 more tokens. Chapter 2169. Inside the vast and boundless space of the formation, scenes of fierce competition were playing out one after another. Diyuan leisurely flew through the space. His eyes looked into the depths of the fog of the matrix. His eyes flashed with the scenes in the matrix space. The vast matrix space was actually all within the range of his senses. I originally had no intention of seizing your fortunes, but the rules are as such. However, it's a kind of fortune that you can use your own opportunities to help me. Diyuan casually smiled, but there was a kind of domineering aura that looked down on the world spontaneously. In the next moment, Diyuan stretched out his hand and grabbed 3 times in the air. It felt like the supreme heavenly way was casually taking things from heaven and earth. The whole world was at his disposal. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 3 geniuses were forcibly grabbed by Diyuan from thousands of miles away. The strength of these 3 geniuses was very extraordinary. Two of them were lower ultimate gods, and the other one had reached the height of fifth heaven ultimate god. In terms of cultivation, they could be ranked in the top 1,000 among more than 10,000 geniuses. However, at this time, the three of them were shocked to find that the heavenly ways laws were not under their control. A kind of heavenly ways divine power that shackled heaven and earth, and the heavenly ways will that made all living things in the world submit and fear envelop them. They were grabbed like chickens and brought to Diyuan. So it's young Master Diyuan. It's my bad luck to have met you. I'll give you the token. It's my great honor to have the token snatched by young Master Diyuan personally. The two geniuses obediently took out their tokens. There was even one genius who was not depressed at all. Instead, he seemed unusually excited, as if it was his honor to be snatched by Diyuan. Diyuan, I admit that I'm not your opponent, but the token is related to my future. How can I give it up so easily? The other genius, whose cultivation had reached medium ultimate god, was unwilling to be eliminated just like that. This also meant that he would be assigned to the Yellow Realm after entering Yuan Tiangong. He gave it his all. Streaks of sharp and domineering saber light burst out from this genius's body and condensed into a huge battle saber. It actually tore apart Diyuan's shackles and then slashed at Diyuan with a momentum that could sever the great Tao of heaven and earth. Most of the cultivator's magic treasures were mainly flying swords. It was rare to see a magic treasure that used sabers as the Tao of heaven and earth. Deities who used sabers as divine weapons had the most overbearing, fierce, and unstoppable attacks. You don't stand a chance against me. Diyuan faintly smiled and unleashed a palm strike. It caused the surrounding power of the realm to surge and engulf the battle blade and the prodigy. The light of the saber dimmed down and flew back to the body of the genius. His defense was shattered, and his body was severely damaged. He couldn't fight anymore. As expected of the imperial people's Shao Zun. I'm convinced. The prodigy gritted his teeth and handed the token to Diyuan. Soon after, he was sent out of the space by Xin Wei. If other people wanted to snatch a token, it would be extremely difficult, but Diyuan easily snatched 3 tokens. The strength of a supreme imperial people's genius was actually so terrifying. Diyuan put away the 3 tokens. Divine light swirled around him. Then, his eyes flashed with a domineering luster. In his eyes, he could clearly see the figure of a woman in a white robe. Her body was enveloped by a cold illusion of an ice phoenix as she fought against a genius. Phoenix Xuanxin? The corners of Diyuan's mouth curled up in an indifferent smile. Q8 ZBSB. Among all the prodigies, only Su Fang is qualified to fight with me. Unfortunately, he's still a little lacking. It's really boring. If I snatch Su Fang's Dao Companion's token, I'll definitely be able to make him unleash his powerful combat strength. Moreover, the Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan previously proposed a marriage alliance, but there was no further discussion. Phoenix Xuanxin has become Su Fang's Dao Companion. Where does that put me? Diyuan inexplicably snorted. His figure swayed, and his body was enveloped by the power of the Way of the Heavens. He traveled through the void and instantly appeared not far away from Xuanxin. At this time, Xuanxin had already ended his battle with his opponent and was about to obtain the token. Diyuan suddenly reached out and snatched the token. Xuanxin's divine light changed instantly. Diyuan said casually, hand over your token so that you won't get hurt. Xuanxin looked as if he was facing a great enemy. You want to take my token? Why don't you come and take it yourself? Then give it to me. Diyuan walked towards Xuanxin step by step. Space and the great Tao nomological laws shattered under his feet. With a few steps, he arrived in front of Xuanxin. The power of the Way of the Heavens exploded. Xuanxin felt as if a terrifying wave was rushing towards him. All the nomological laws and energy were about to be shattered and swallowed by Diyuan's aura. The young master of the Di Xian sect actually dares to bully a woman. How embarrassing! Goddess Luo's sharp voice sounded. Then, a way of the heavens that circulated the 5 elements and circulated the heaven and earth came crashing down on Diyuan. Diyuan was born in the imperial people. The imperial people were a supreme divine race that could control the power of the way of the heavens. Not only could they easily control the way of the heavens, but they also had the ability to deprive the enemy of communicating with the way of the heavens. Not only was it domineering, but its power was also boundless. However, Goddess Luo was a peerless genius who had cultivated an inner world. Her inner world was different from the real universe and was naturally not suppressed by Diyuan. Goddess Luo, you dare to make an enemy of me? Diyuan was finally moved. He gave up on Xuanxin and focused on dealing with Goddess Luo. Only you can rob others, but others can't make an enemy of you. Diyuan, do you really think that you are the ruler of the way of the heavens? Xuanxin is my sister. How can I allow you to attack her? Goddess Luo shouted fiercely, forcing Diyuan to retreat. Xuanxin, let's go. Goddess Luo released a burst of divine might that wrapped around Xuanxin and flew into the depths of the array space. Su Feng, you are really heaven-defying. You actually obtained the favor of 2 peerless women at the same time. Diyuan did not pursue. He looked at the place where Xuanxin and Goddess Luo disappeared. He could not help but feel a trace of jealousy in his heart. About 5 days later, Su Feng used the illusory fire cloud and swept across the vast array space like a cloud of fire. At the same time, he used his sensing ability to search for his target. In 5 days, Su Feng had collected a total of 8 tokens. If he obtained 2 more, he would be able to advance to the top 100. There were more than 10,000 geniuses in the array space. It seemed like a lot of people, but they were scattered in the vast array space. It was not easy to find a target. Fortunately, Su Feng's great perfection ability and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique were more than 10 times better than the other geniuses' ability to find a target. Otherwise, just searching for a target would take more than half the time. Moreover, these geniuses that were able to enter Primordius' heavenly palace were not to be trifled with. To be able to reach this step, which one of them didn't possess powerful cultivation methods, supernatural abilities, divine tools, ruthless methods and schemes? It wasn't easy to obtain each token. Moreover, Su Feng was very clear that the real competition was not now. It was after entering the top 100 and fighting for the top 10. Therefore, some of his trump cards could not be used now. Therefore, it was not easy to obtain these 8 tokens. Finally, I found one. Su Feng sensed that a genius was flying towards him from 1,000 miles away. He immediately became spirited. This genius was injured. It was obvious that he had gone through an intense battle. However, his luck was obviously not good. In the end, he still bumped into Su Feng. Hand over your token and I won't make things difficult for you. Su Feng used his wings of fire cloud, and with a whoosh, he appeared a dozen miles away from this genius. For an ultimate god expert, this distance was no different from face to face. Moreover, Su Feng was not an ordinary ultimate god. Su Feng, this genius had just luckily escaped a calamity. He did not expect to encounter Su Feng again. His face immediately turned pale and his body trembled. Su Feng, I was born lowly. To be able to reach this step, I have gone through untold hardships and finally had this opportunity. I beg you to let me off this time. I will definitely repay you in the future. I know that you are born lowly like me. You will not make things difficult for me. The genius's face was full of bitterness. He cupped his fist and begged Su Feng. Su Feng raised his eyebrows and relaxed his vigilance. He sighed and said, "You are right. I am born lowly like you. I have relied on my own efforts to reach this step by step. I have gone through countless hardships and tribulations." The genius was obviously relieved. He showed a grateful expression and said, "Thank you, Brother Su. I will repay you in the future." Su Fang suddenly smiled and said, "If you had not secretly activated your life divine artifact, I might have been soft-hearted and let you go this time." The genius's divine light changed slightly. Immediately, his eyes flashed with ruthlessness. "I did not expect you to find out. Take out your token." Like a ferocious beast suddenly showing its ferocious fangs, the clouds behind the genius suddenly rolled and quickly condensed into a pair of white azure wings. It was actually a peak supreme grade life divine artifact. Moreover, it was this genius's life divine artifact. "Su Fang, don't blame me for being ruthless," the genius shouted in a domineering manner. He suddenly flapped his azure wings, which immediately dissipated and turned into white mist. Chi. The strands of mist weren't formed from water element Grand Tao divine abilities, and they were condensed from the Grand Tao of metal instead. They contained extremely fierce and sharp sword Chi, and as they revolved and roiled, even space was minced into pieces. Who knew? A mysterious purple aura exploded from Su Fang's body. The white mist rolled rapidly, and then revealed a pair of trembling azure wings. The genius was shocked to find that he had lost control of his life divine artifact. Su Fang took a step forward and reached out to grab the azure wings. The 9-yang divine fire, combined with the prehistoric inflammation, shot out from his palm and engulfed the azure wings, burning them crazily. "Stop! Stop right now and I'll give you my token." The genius finally panicked. He hurriedly took out his token. However, he did not throw it to Su Fang. Instead, he threw it at the dozen or so geniuses in the distance who were charging toward him. The one who threw it was Fan Shu. This genius's intentions were extremely sinister. Before he was eliminated, he wanted to shift the blame to Su Fang. "Su Fang, my token is not that easy to take. You can slowly snatch it from those geniuses of the ancient god world." Ha ha ha. Chapter 2170. You don't know what's good for you. Su Fang's eyes shone with a cold light. The rules of the seventh gate of heaven forbade them from killing, but they didn't forbid them from hurting others. However, Su Fang hadn't hurt any of the other geniuses except for young Master Wentian. However, this genius had successfully provoked Su Fang's anger. This genius had been enveloped by the power of the array, and his natal relic would be sent out of the array with him. He thought that Su Fang couldn't do anything to him, so he showed a smug and mocking expression. Who knew? The next moment, the purple cloud in Su Fang's hand suddenly burst out and wrapped around the cloud-winged relic. When it was sucked into Su Fang's body, a lifelike shadow appeared in the purple gas. It was exactly the same as that genius. It was the original spirit of his natal divine weapon. QL11. It turned out that Su Fang had activated the purple cloud Dharma spirit and forcibly swallowed the original spirit of the genius's natal relic. The original spirit of a natal divine weapon was nurtured by the owner's primordial spirit, blood, and chi together with the natal divine weapon. A natal divine weapon that had lost its original spirit was equivalent to being half destroyed. It would take a great deal of time and a great price to regenerate the original spirit. More importantly, the natal relic was connected to the Master's life. It was a part of the Master's body. Now that the original spirit of the natal relic had been swallowed, the Master's primordial spirit was also severely injured. He screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, he was sent away by the array together with his natal relic. Just as Su Fang was swallowing the original spirit of the natal relic with his purple cloud Dharma spirit, the genius's token was grabbed by one of the geniuses from the ancient god world who came with Fan Shu. "Su Fang, are you going to obediently hand over the command token, or are you going to allow this young master to beat you until you're looking for your teeth on the ground before snatching away your command token?" Fan Shu and a dozen other geniuses surrounded Su Fang. Most of these geniuses from the ancient divine world had been besieged by Su Fang in the Panheng divine world and killed by Su Fang, including Fan Shu. As a result, their results in the test of the sixth gate of heaven were almost zero. How could these geniuses of the ancient god world not gnash their teeth in anger at Su Fang? Are you going to hand over your tokens on your own accord, or do you want me to beat you into submission and take your tokens away? Don't worry, I won't kill you like I did in the Panheng divine world. As Su Fang's eyes opened and closed, a supreme domineering aura swept across them. As he spoke, he quickly formed hand seals. The aura of the great Tao of time circled around him. An ant that ascended from a great world dares to be so arrogant. You'd better surrender obediently. The geniuses of the ancient god world roared and unleashed their divine skills or activated their divine weapons to attack Su Fang from all directions. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fang's figure shattered and vanished into nothingness. However, what was destroyed was merely an image he'd left behind a dozen breaths ago after using the great Tao of time. Fan Shu, I killed you in the Panheng divine world last time. You won't be able to escape this time either. Su Fang's murderous voice sounded abruptly. Before Fan Shu could react, Su Fang had already used his fire cloud wings to attack her. In the Panheng divine world, my divine skills were restricted and I couldn't activate my divine weapons. That's why you were lucky enough to succeed. Do you really think you're qualified to fight me? I'll show you the ultimate divine skill of my race. Heaven collapse, all things perish. Fan Shu unleashed an earth-shattering hand seal. In an instant, the divine might of the heavenly Tao enveloped Su Fang. Su Fang's world changed in an instant. Thunder rumbled in the sky, lightning flashed, dark clouds rolled, and the sky was torn apart. The space around Su Fang trembled violently and kept shattering. An earth-shattering power swept toward Su Fang, intending to crush him into dust. This wasn't an illusion, but a world of destruction created by Fan Shu's divine skill. The ancient Sanskrit is indeed extraordinary. If a Sanskrit cultivator used this divine skill, I would have no choice but to resign myself to death. Unfortunately, it's Fan Shu. Let's see if your Sanskrit divine skill is more powerful than my Kai Tian seal. Su Fang quickly formed a hand seal and held the Chaos Taiji in his hands. Chaotic energy flowed rapidly between his hands. Illusions of the ups and downs of heaven and earth and the shifting of stars flashed in his eyes. Boom! A mighty force that seemed to have opened up the world tore apart the great path created by Brahma Shu's divine power. Everything was on the verge of shattering at this moment. A divine skill of your own divine skill has broken my race's divine skill. Fan Shu spat out a mouthful of blood when his divine skill was broken. His aura weakened and his eyes flashed with incredulity. Waves of shock surged in his heart. Fan Shu had personally experienced the power of Su Fang's divine skill in the Panheng divine realm. A dozen geniuses had been killed on the spot and he himself had been severely injured. At the time, he'd thought that Su Fang's strength was limited by the environment of the Panheng divine realm. Now that he was fighting Su Fang again, Fan Shu finally realized how shocking Su Fang's divine skill was. He's at the end of his tether. Let's attack him together. Seeing Su Fang's aura rapidly weakening after using the Kai Tian seal, Fan Shu immediately shouted at the other geniuses. The other dozen or so geniuses from the ancient god world once again witnessed Su Fang's shocking attack, and all of them were scared witless. Only 2 geniuses dashed toward Su Fang recklessly after hearing Fan Shu's voice. The others were so frightened that they shrank back. The 2 geniuses who dashed toward Su Fang were very cautious. They activated their divine weapons at the same time. One of them activated a crimson flying sword and set off a violent flame that swept toward Su Fang. The other person controlled a simple and large seal, and it carried a strand of divine might that suppressed and sealed the heavens and the earth as it rumbled down towards Su Fang. The two geniuses from the ancient god realm were only lower ultimate gods, but their divine weapons were very extraordinary. They were confident that even a peak ninth heaven ultimate god expert would be suppressed by them if they joined forces. Natal form. Restricted by the rules, even the rune talismans condensed by experts could not be used. Naturally, they could not release their expert. Su Fong naturally could not directly release the experts and Big Goblin in his inner world. Especially the immortal blood spirit created by the demon monkey's remnant thoughts, it could not be used. However, Su Fong had the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. He could gather the strength of all his subordinates and penetrate it into his body to become his strength. At this time, his natal relic and the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda had not begun to merge. Therefore, he could still activate the Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda. In his natal form, Su Fong had absorbed the strength of hundreds of thousands of his subordinates and Big Goblin. At this moment, he had the terrifying strength that surpassed the ultimate god realm. He threw a punch at the seal descending from the sky. Boom! The seal was blasted away by Su Fong. The flying sword carried a flaming wave as it rolled towards Su Fong. Su Fong once again activated the purple chi spirit, erupting with a terrifying divine power. The flying sword immediately emitted a buzzing sound filled with fear. The monstrous wave of fire also dimmed in an instant. Then, Su Fong threw another punch, shattering the wave of fire and shattering the trembling flying sword. The original spirit of the divine relic was also destroyed. He can actually resist a divine relic with his physical body. The two geniuses were surprised and shocked. They turned around and wanted to escape. In a flash, Su Fong used the phaseless fire cloud saber in his natal form. The flaming saber light engulfed the two geniuses. Waves of explosions and screams of pain came from the two geniuses. After 5 breaths of time, they were directly sent out by the formation's divine power. The formation space created by venerable sovereigns was very magical. It could automatically release a protective divine power to those geniuses who had lost their ability to fight or were at risk of dying. Of course, this also meant that the geniuses who were protected also lost the qualification to continue fighting for the tokens. 2 tokens appeared in the place where the two geniuses had disappeared and were put away by Su Fong. Then, Su Fong looked at Fan Shu. A murderous aura rose to the sky as he used his flaming cloud wings to attack Fan Shu. Is this young lord really afraid of you? Fan Shu's eyes revealed a look of horror, but her mouth was still very tough. Suddenly a divine power descended and enveloped Su Fong. Then, a distorted divine power was about to send Su Fong out. Fan Shu was startled for a moment, then immediately understood. As long as you get 10 tokens, you will automatically enter the top 100 and be sent out of the formation space. Su Fong, what can you do to me? Ha ha. Can't I really do anything to you? Su Fong smiled coldly. The moment he was sent out, he threw out a black cloud that turned into a black cloud and surged above Fan Su's head. Fan Su couldn't sense any energy fluctuation from the black cloud, so he snorted. However, he didn't dare to be careless and directly release divine power to form a defense above his head. A black thunderbolt flashed out of the black cloud and bombarded Fan Shu's defense as soon as it formed. Then, there was a downpour. Swish, swish, swish. The black thunderbolt ignored Fan Shu's defense and struck him directly. Then, a stinky liquid poured over him and chilled him to the core. Damn it! What the hell is this? The stench almost made Fan Shu faint. She vomited loudly. Black thunderbolt stripes appeared inside and outside his divine body, like marks on the sky. Fan Shu, who had been extraordinarily handsome, suddenly became extremely ugly and stinky. The other geniuses of the ancient god world were dumbfounded when they saw Fan Shu's appearance. They hurriedly flew away, not only because of Fan Shu's stench, but also because they were afraid that Fan Shu's stench would contaminate them. Looking at Fan Shu, The other geniuses were frightened. Their eyes were full of shock and sympathy for Fan Shu. This was too tragic. Fan Shu tried everything he could, but still couldn't get rid of the stench and the stripes on his body.